What is up, everybody? It is your friendly neighborhood BJJ podcaster, Rafa Esparza, coming to you live right now. It is 12:07 Best Coast time. There is an amazing event that is happening right in front of me. We'll get to that in a second. We'll also get to our guests in a second. But before we start, I'd just like to say, if you guys got some apparel needs, I would encourage you to go to No Gi BJJ gear. Use the code Grappling Hour 15. Save $15 off whatever's in your cart. I would suggest you guys get the Corona Weight Champ shirt or rash guard because let's face it, all of us have put on some pounds. I'm talking about myself here, everybody. But if you did happen to go up a size, it's not a wrong thing to get some if you can afford it. I'm not telling you what to do with your life. Let me tell you what's going on right now. I'm very excited because I was able to steal the golden voice of Polaris to watch along. Polaris, I believe this is 13 along with us. I don't know how I did it. I mean, there's a lot of credit that goes to my persistence, my nagging. I will admit to you right now, as I kind of see them stalling and going to a commercial, it is a little weird not seeing them there. But their loss is our gain. Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome America's, now, I guess we could say, because he's kind of a citizen here, one, Josh Palmer. Josh, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good, Raph. How are you?
I'm very well. Hey, man, you know, I was telling you off air, but I will reiterate it here. It's a little weird not seeing you on there.
Yeah, it's weird for me. You know, Polaris, there's never been a Polaris that I haven't been in the middle of. So, you know, unfortunately, COVID screwed us a bit there, but you know, it's out of all the things that have happened with that, this is hardly that bad in the context. So, you know,
yeah, I know.
The day.
Yeah, of all the things we lost in COVID, you not getting one gig out of your thousands of gigs that you get. So I was thinking about this. I like to say that you steal all of the American gigs from me, but there's like a even weirder sense that I thought about. And I was like, you know, I don't think I could steal this gig from you. I don't think my voice would translate well on a Polaris cast. And that upsets me a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be very, very English to do Polaris. That's literally the criteria. So, you know.
But do you ever get to this point? Because I don't hear it the way that you hear it. There are certain broadcasters, I won't name names, and I think you're quite good. So I'll say that. If I'm going to lose the jobs to anybody, I would rather it be you.
Well,
but I do occasionally have a moment where I think, are they good or are they just British?
I had this conversation with someone last week because I got approached for a couple of new gigs, but I basically sort of said to them, you know, there are definitely times where having a very English accent has helped, you know, not a regional English accent, you know, when particularly in my presentation voice, you know, I'm newsreader English. So, you know, I think it's definitely helped a bit, you know.
I mean, I'm always pleased when I hear your voice. It sounds like a good broadcaster voice on top of the fact that you sound with your British voice. It's always like, oh, that makes sense for Polaris. I think it's when you do the American ones that I'm like, damn it.
I know what you mean.
Go away, dude.
Yeah, you're like, it's a regional event. Why are we not having a presenter local to the region?
You know? But I was before, I think it was right like the hour before, you know, I was like, hey, you know, we'll time it out. You'll come on the show. I was seriously thinking about it. I was like, man, as much as I want to like give him shit for always taking our jobs here as a foreigner, I could never take his job on Polaris. And I was just like, I was driving and I get to a stoplight and I just go, that's really sad. All right, well, moving on. Hey, you know what's great though, dude? Before we get to the actual event, because they're doing all the profiles.
Yeah, the 15 minutes you sit through in any event before anything actually happens.
Can I ask you, what is normally going on in your head as this stuff is happening? Because anybody who does production knows this is a very tense time, and that is a photo of Shane Curtis, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, cool. See, Brad has normal hair there. Sorry, we'll get to that in a minute. No, what's going on in my head right now? Not a whole lot, to be quite honest. There's nothing I can do at this point. We've done the live opening piece to camera, which is, you know, it's not stressful, but it requires a bit more thought and coordination. But at this point, I'm literally sitting there just watching, waiting for stuff to start. I mean, you know, I have my notes I've written in front of me. Right about now is when I would start talking. Let's see if they are. See, we can be judgmental over how much research did the guys do.
Oh, no, I don't want to do that. So I don't also want to say which commentator, but like, I think there was one commentator where I went up to him afterwards, and I'm vocal about being like, I would like the job, but I'm also not going to steal the job from you. I'm not going to go behind the scenes and be like, hey, fuck this guy. And I asked him, I was like, hey man, how did it go? And he's like, well, I'm obviously terrible. And I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
I don't think you're joking with me, and I don't know that you know that I'm joking. So
yeah,
that's a fun one. All right.
Like I know when I've done something I don't think was good, and it's only happened. Not that I don't think it's good, but something where I'm instantly self-critical of like, I'll go back and I'll watch stuff and I'll be like, okay, well that screwed up a little bit. But there's only been a couple of times where I'm like, I didn't have a good night. Like I just overall didn't have a good night. And a couple of times it's been when I've been incredibly tired. Like I've flown in from the US to the UK on the day of an event. And, I've landed at like 11 a.m. in the morning, haven't slept on the flight, and I'm doing an event through to like midnight that same day. That's happened a few times. And honestly, when I did UFC London for the BBC for radio, I struggled with that a little bit. Or at least I felt I did. Apparently the broadcast was great, but like, I thought it was a bit off.
I usually have a certain thing that I tell, I guess, the haters or the people who don't enjoy what it is I do. I'm like, I promise you there is nothing that you can say on the internet that is worse.
That I'm not beating myself up about.
I'm saying to myself. Like, that's why I think what makes a solid broadcaster is somebody who watches it like their own version of tape. Like we have an analysis of, hey, listen, that worked, that didn't work, and being very honest about it. And I'm intrigued because Bradley was already gunning for an armbar as very quickly as possible. I don't know if he's got somewhere else to be tonight.
He's this should be a fairly convincing win for Brad. He's just a more well-known and prolific competitor than Shane. I actually don't know what the point system is tonight. This is weird. Did they explain a different point system?
I think there was a little placard there. I was also distracted by, trying to be a good host here. So I think what ends up happening, and here's a little tip from a pro here, Josh. So when you do one of these broadcasts, it's best not to know the rules and to find out as they go along, because.
Okay. So right now we've got 1 point for perhaps a near submission attempt. That's what
I would assume. That was my best guess because there was no real pass.
Or the guard pass. Maybe he got it for the guard pass before he went for the armbar.
I mean, it was a real loose pass if there is one. Whoosh!
Nice pickup.
I would tell you this. I think the fun of it is, like, we were watching Third Coast Grappling, and they have points that go up. And when the points go up, it's supposed to be a submission only unless you get 11 points. Okay. So when someone just like they're head on points and they run out of time, my first reaction on air was, "Oh, cool." And then they went to overtime and I was like, "Is there a bonus round? Did they hit a question mark box and got an extra little bonus? Because what the hell is that?" And Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, Third Coast is tonight, right, as well?
Yes. So there's a separate broadcast that I'll be doing for that one as well. It's a busy day here, Josh.
Yeah, I was gonna say you got a lot going on.
Was
it Nikki and Roberto Jimenez?
That's the first match of that card, and that is wild. Yeah. And you know what? I believe at some point, I'm pretty sure Roberto was kind of saying like, "Hey man, yeah, I'm looking at that. There's a chance it doesn't go through." And then when I saw that it was for sure happening, I saw that they gave him Nicky Rod first round. I said, well, that's probably better than most other things you could find. I don't care where you go. There's not a super fight that's going to be more interesting on paper than that one.
No, it's going to be interesting, man. I haven't watched Roberto a whole lot lately. I just haven't kept up, obviously, because of COVID and stuff. There hasn't been a lot of grappling, but I honestly haven't kept up with a lot of goings on anyway. Like, I haven't caught almost any of the fight to wins that have happened, or have had other stuff going on, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the hard part is this. I would give you the credit enough to know the research process that you normally do whenever you are on a broadcast, that if, someone's not paying you or you don't have a major broadcast, I think it's kind of, you've earned a few days off.
I like grappling, but I'm not a hardcore fan. I'm not in the way that, I don't know if it's a particularly American thing, but I've always thought this, particularly with stuff like the NFL and baseball and that kind of thing. I don't know if it's a stereotype, but a lot of you guys just seem to be able to reel random stats off the top of your head. And it's like, English people don't do that. We don't go, oh, in 1984, his RBI was this over the first 40 games. Or, we don't do that.
Yeah.
But it seems to be, I know it might be that just when I hang around at events with like the guys from Flow or whatever, it's like that's their job. So they know everything about everyone. And I'm like, okay, yeah, kind of vaguely heard his name,
Well, I think there are different styles. I would never tell anybody that's not true. I would tell some people. But I think that the beauty of it is, like, you got to work with whatever style works for you. And what I appreciate is that you keep it usually very attuned to what is happening. And I think that, to me, there's nothing wrong with being surprised. I mean, I joke about it where I don't know the rules. But there is something to be said of an audience watching you be as surprised as them, and them having a kind of shared experience, because, not everybody loves a Bob Costas that comes out and seems like the smart kid in school that did all the homework, and you go, bro, I don't care if the Yankees won that year. Just shut up and tell me why this football match is happening.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, it depends on what you're doing in the commentary, doesn't it? I mean, with Polaris, my job is to know all the bio information, so I'm going to know all the bio information. Color comms is a bit different.
Yep. And I would tell you this: what is nice about what I can kind of hear in one ear is that, Hardy's actually pretty decent, so I'm glad that
Dan is actually awesome. Like, I'm not, it's you got to be honest. If you're going to replace me with somebody, like, it's not bad to be Dan Hardy, is it?
No, but I mean, Dan's like, there's a difference when someone welcomes you to a show as a broadcaster, and that makes you feel right at ease, because it's like that one moment. You don't get a lot of takes on this. You get one take to tell people, hey, everybody, relax. You're watching a show, and I'm going to walk you through it.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the things that you do really well as well is that you create that conversation that is the stuffiest, dumbest, like, no one talks to each other in real life like this. I think we're looking at a submission, and we do have one. Bradley is going to advance, so congratulations.
Yeah, I could have told you that was going to happen.
Well, you didn't predict Rear Naked Choke.
No. But
you could say he would walk through pretty fairly on this one.
I mean, my prediction, at least one of the finalists is going to be Ross Nichols. Like, I don't really see how that happens anyway, other than that. Ross Nichols was just very unlucky at ADCC that his opening round match was JT Torres, right? And even then, he held his own until the closing kind of, JT, I think, got a guard pass like towards the end, but Ross held his own. And, he was on a strong streak coming off beating, did he beat Wagner? Or, having a good match with Wagner at Polaris. So he's probably going to make it through to the final. I can't remember what the bracket is on the other side, though.
I would tell you this, man. I have a high respect for Ross Nichols. And I would tell you, when you get really sad that, say, Nicky Rod was supposed to be in this, and some other people. I thought, wasn't Taza supposed to be in this as well?
Nathan Orchard was supposed to be in this.
Originally
Kynan was supposed to be in this.
Yeah.
Kynan or Lucas. And then Nicky Rod and a couple of other people. I mean, it was a much bigger event, and COVID sort of slapped it down. They were really hoping. It was getting to 2 weeks before, and they were like, we can still do this. And, at the end of the day, in a lot of these events, it's the insurance company that pulls the plug on you, really.
And understandably, have hope that you were holding out as well? Were you
A little bit, yeah. But when it was looking like flying was going to be the issue. I mean, the weird thing is we've actually found out that legally I could. You're going to have to excuse any random noises. My two dogs have now decided to run around the living room. Legally, I can freely travel back and forth between the UK and the US right now, but we didn't know that at the time for this. So I've got some events coming up potentially in August and September, which I will be traveling for. But basically, I'm a UK citizen, so the UK can't keep me out, and I'm a green card holder in the US, so the US can't keep me out. So legally, I'm fine.
Well, I would tell you this, man. I hope that works for you because that sounds like a really great opportunity. And I think that they're starting to understand that there are things that we can do that are fairly safe or that we know the risks that are involved. It's just just unfortunate.
It depends on the event, right? So like one of the events that I'm potentially doing in a couple of months' time, involves a period of quarantine in a hotel and a COVID test and that kind of thing. So it's it's similar to the format the UFC are using for Fight Island right now, where people had to quarantine at their point of origin for a couple of days while their COVID test was processed, and then they got to fly out to Abu Dhabi. So.
Yeah. Well, let me kind of bring this to your attention, which is we have a normal tradition on this show, which is we cheers those athletes who get finishes. So technically, that was a finish.
It was a finish, indeed.
So I would like to give you the honor of cheersing Bradley. Now, there are no real rhyme or reasons to this. It's just usually about 20 seconds of saying a nice compliment for getting a finish. Because here's the thing. We want to encourage people to get more finishes within regulation so that like you and I don't have to stall and make super boring matches interesting.
That is fair. That is fair. Well, in that case, we shall raise a glass of whatever your tipple of choice is. And what is that?
This is coffee right now because I got a long day. So you can not give me any shit right now.
Well. Oh no, of course my internet just cut out. Or the broadcast did anyway. Oh no, there we go. Okay. We shall raise a glass to Mr. Bradley Hill, who did an exceptional job at pushing forward very quickly, lots of aggression, did a good job in opening us up with a submission. We like to see it because he hasn't had that many on Polaris before.
Cheers. Cheers indeed. Look at that.
Cheers to you.
I would tell you this, man. You do make that sound a little classier than normally we do it. We do let Kevin do a bulk of the cheersing on our shows. And there's a certain AC/DC kick to the balls approach that he has that is quite entertaining, but it's unique to only him. And when people have tried to cheers like him, I'm like, don't do him. Do what you do. Well, let me see here. I think one of the things that we were talking about, and I don't know that you know this, but I got the opportunity, when we did another fight companion for the ADCC, I didn't really get to hear you and John, but I did the replay, and I got to hear a little bit of you and John. I thought you guys did quite well together.
Thank you very much. John was fun to do that with, having never done anything with him before. I learned some cool stuff off him, which was pretty nifty. Obviously, he was. ADCC is a weird one because there was no way I could do research on every single person. Yeah. And you don't know what matches you're going to get. It's all random assignment from the computer over what match finishes when. So there were some who, John was just far more knowledgeable about those particular competitors and what their style was. And I learned a couple of bits of terminology that, I wasn't up on, which was good. So yeah, I enjoyed it. It was good. And obviously we got a few banging matches.
You really did. And the thing is like, so when we do a live companion, it's sort of similar to this, I try to just keep the sound off. If I'm watching like a UFC, I might have an earpiece to hear the post interviews, but I really just try to be live to what this is. Yeah. And when I didn't get the chance to hear you guys, John was like, "Oh, well, how'd I do?" And I was like, "I didn't listen to you, John."
No idea.
You did. I would have loved to have listened to it, but I didn't. And so when I finally got the chance to see it on the replay as we were watching it, I was just like, that was really good, and I think it was a good presentation by the two of you. So I wanted to pass that compliment on your way.
Thank you very much. Yeah, no, I was super happy with those 2 days. I mean, we got Hanato Canuto and and Gary Tonin on our mat, which I had said to you in that little broadcast we did before. That was a match that I would love to see, and we got it on our mat, and it was no gi match of the year, pretty much. So yeah, very happy about that. There weren't too many people I didn't get to call who I would have liked to have called a match for. I didn't do any of Nikki Rod's, which so be it. But I had a Kynan, I had a Bushesha, that sort of stuff. So I was happy.
Absolutely. I mean, it's nice to get the opportunity to kind of mix it up. And I enjoy the spontaneity of things like, in late night broadcasting, they kind of teach you the show's going to go wrong at some point and you just have to embrace it. So you build in jokes and you just kind of go, yeah, well, all right, well, this is going to go wrong. For a particular style of ADCC, though, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. So when you have a bracket, there's no way you know that until it comes out. And then once you see the bracket, who knows who's going to advance? Who knows what's going to go on? So to me, there's a little bit of, as a perfectionist, a little bit of a angry kid who does all the homework and goes, God damn it, I want to know the order so I can be prepared.
That was the hardest part for me. Alongside, and this is a weird one, but we were specifically instructed not to make reference to anything else that was happening in any other match or had happened or could happen. Like literally only call that match and don't reference that they beat somebody earlier. Don't reference that, well, we're going to, the decider of who he's going to face is going on right now on the bracket next door. All the stuff that, if you're juggling multiple threads as an aware person in that setting, you would want to say. And that was really tough to switch off. Because obviously out of the corner of my eye, I can see what else is going on and it's relevant to what is happening on our mat, in the context of the day. But we were sort of specifically instructed not to do that. So that was probably the hardest thing to switch off.
I would tell you this, though. I understand that. I think it is difficult for a style that I like is always, sensory, which is always don't explain just what's happening, but kind of bring people into a world of what it means and all of that. So I understand that's a difficult build, but it is interesting though, because I think their perspective is only this is going to live on and people are going to watch these matches isolated. So I totally understand that, because
that's I completely understand why. It just made it harder because obviously I would be doing my natural thing of doing that. So wow, Dominic has gone all out on the attire and the haircut for this one.
Let's chat about that. He looks like he is a pro wrestler to me.
He looks like a less well-built Zangief.
Oh, God. The thing is I've been trying to get a good feel of this, but if everybody's taking the precautions to wear the masks and, Submission Underground is all about, like, you've got to wear, like, 3 layers of rash guards.
Really? Okay.
The ADCC style of Sans rash guard / shirt is always one to me that goes, man, the people who are wearing the masks are going like, bro, really? You gonna do the no shirt right now? And you just think, well, you're already there, so what's gonna happen now?
That is I honestly did not think that Dominic would be able to threaten Ross, but he's got on his arm a couple of times here.
I think the idea is that I think what's interesting is he is using a little bit of that Ross Nichols kind of timing. I mean, he's just going in there. He aggressively went out very quickly at the beginning of the match. And I think he understands, like, hey, maybe I don't have his technique, but I'm just going to bring it to him.
Yeah. I mean, Ross has defended this Kimura now.
Oh, yeah.
I had buffering issues, so I missed the start of the match.
You're perfectly fine. I can appreciate the fact that, listen, dude, this dude looks like he's wearing a recycled Hulkamania outfit. There is a certain appeal to that to me because I go, listen, dude, that you're preaching to the choir. If you're going to do pro wrestling, just go all out.
Wait, who did I see is playing Hulk Hogan in a biopic?
That would be Hemsworth. Chris Hemsworth is
okay. Yeah, I can see that.
The only thing that's a little weird to me is the voice, and I think that was the thing he said he has to work on to make it a little bit more natural. So that's my only concern, but everything else is fine. So when you are looking at these matches, do you get more excited about a tournament, or do you get more excited about big scale matches, like big scale super fights?
It completely depends on who's in the tournament, who's on the super fight. I don't have a particular. I like tournaments, but it's not uncommon, as you well know, that tournaments you get an injury or something. You know, we've had it happen a couple of times at Kasai, where it's like it's ruined the. You know, it happened to the whole Nicky Rod and Cyborg thing. Nicky Rod murked Vinny so badly in that first round that Vinny ended up pulling out of the tournament, and that gifted, you know, points to Cyborg under the rule set that he wouldn't necessarily have got, and sent him through for the, you know, the first place match. So yeah, I like tournaments, but I do appreciate that they're not necessarily always fair.
I appreciate tournaments from the sense of building, because I like narrating things that have a continuous build to it.
Yes.
Like if it's only, I think honestly, and you know, it's Chael's baby, but the commentary for Submission Underground, I think, has to be one of the hardest gigs because it's over before it's begun.
I've pretty much never watched a Submission Underground event. I've watched individual fights, but not really, you know, literally like, oh, Craig murked someone, let's have a look. You know, that's usually how, you know.
I would tell you this, the weirdest part to me, and I don't know that a lot of people are necessarily watching Submission Underground for the commentary, but I would tell you I think it's really difficult when you get the high level people at 5-minute matches that then go into EBI overtime.
Right.
And yet, at the same point, having the tournament aspect to it does make things a little interesting. So I've learned to appreciate that. I also want to compliment one thing over here for Dominic, which is he does that thing that a lot of my friends love to do, where he snags that with his head, that arm. It's almost like
the origami. Yeah.
There. Thank you. And every time he does that, it doesn't necessarily stop the action, but it halts Nichols's movement.
You have to address it. It's like there's one guy I roll with who he's a black belt up here who runs Gracie Barra Princeton, and I roll with him every so often, and he's the only guy I train with other than my professor who has that particular, you know, snap grip so down with his timing, and you just forget how horrible it is. You know, it does. You literally have to address it. You have to try and you know, shove your arm deep and limp arm out, etc. But yeah, it's annoying. It's really annoying.
There are so many times that I literally have to concede the sweep and just go like, this is so dumb. Like I just get so angry because I go, yeah, I'm not necessarily going to win this battle because I like my arm and I'd rather not have it bent a certain way.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to give up some form of base. If you get caught deep, you end up having to give up some form of base, and usually it just ends up in a scramble. But now I can't quite see the points here because my thing is very blurry.
Nichols is still ahead 1-0.
1-0.
Yes. Which is weird because you would assume just from the difference of positions throughout all of this, it would feel like maybe some other points could have happened, but no, it's pretty much 1-0 right now.
Yeah, same thing. Like there you go again, diving over the top.
Yep, it's beautiful.
Deep.
Oh, good.
Ross is looking for heel hooks here. He's done so much work on his leg lock game; it's unreal.
And I would tell you this: I think that Ross has gotten to the point where he goes, "Listen, if I let this guy in anymore, he's going to advance over me in a way that I don't want him to get past me." So when he was looking for those leg locks in that last transition right there, it looked pretty solid.
Yeah, I got to be honest. This is way more competitive than I expected it to be.
I think it's both the tights and the hair, because I did notice every time with Ross Nichols where he tries to grab the hair or the head, he just keeps slipping off, and I was like, oh, you know what? There is something to that. Good for him with his COVID cut. Now I'm noticing with you, have you guys gone back to training yet? I don't know what your situation is out.
So, strictly speaking, no, the gym is not open.
Got it.
Jersey is still kind of shut down for stuff like that. You know, there's no indoor dining, that sort of thing. Which, I mean, hey, we're not getting hit with what you guys are getting hit with now, or Texas or Florida. So, you know, but it's it's a tough topic here because the state is, you know, where I live is a bit more mixed in terms of political opinion compared with North Jersey, which is obviously skews a bit more New Yorkish. But you know, as I tell a lot of people, the rules we're under here are not really dissimilar to the rules that are happening in the UK right now. You know, there are whole countries still. You know, New Jersey is an outlier in what we're doing. There are whole countries that are still operating under those rules. You know.
Yeah.
So no, I haven't set foot on a jiu-jitsu mat since about the second week in March.
Oh my God.
Yeah, longest in 13 years I've never trained, including having surgery and that sort of stuff. It's now starting to get to me because I put on about 10 or 15 pounds, like I'm sure a lot of people did, and then I got myself back in shape and cleaned my diet up and stuff, and now I'm just like, you know, I need to go strangle somebody.
How are you coping though? I mean, like, I've been very curious about everybody's mental capacity. So how is your brain operated? You mentioned you've been wanting to strangle people, but I've wondered how you.
Well, I mean, look, I've dealt with this way better than I expected to. Way better. I was genuinely worried. Not because I particularly have any issues, but like, you know, going to the gym 6 times a week I work from home, right, by myself in my office. So it's my social time. It's my exercise. It's keeps me chilled out. You know, it's been okay. I had to replace it with other things, you know, running, which sucks. But yeah, it's now starting to be the case of like, well, I actually miss it. I genuinely didn't miss it for the first couple of months, just because maybe my body was so broken that, you know, I've got a slap tear on my shoulder at the moment and some other stuff that I was looking at getting surgery on anyway. So I initially I was able to say, okay, well, you know, it's much needed rest. Now I'm like, I want to go train, you know.
Yeah, my progression has gone from, and congratulations to Ross Nickel, who is going to advance. I mean, but that was a hell of a match. So credit to Dom.
I actually missed what the finish was, or was it?
It was just points.
Oh, it's points. Okay.
So they're just advancing them, and it was a very convincing 1-0. So it was very close, and of course, I mean, this is going to play well for Ross. I wonder if that'll, you know, be the wake up.
Look how much he is sweating.
I mean, you know, he was under pressure for a lot of that, dude. So I don't think it's wrong. I think the hardest thing that I have to explain to people is if I am playing with somebody who's a very, very aggressive and physical grappler, I have to be very cautious of, I don't have a gas tank like that. If I go into their world, I've got a gas tank for 2 minutes. But if I get them to play a little bit how I play, I can go forever. So, you know, I think people are very surprised if we're doing stand-up and then all of a sudden they're just like, wow, Raph, you pulled guard. I was like, you're goddamn right I pulled guard. I'm tired. This is exhausting.
Ross has got a gas tank though. He'll be fine.
Well, let's please never compare the gas tank between me and Ross Nichols ever. I think we are completely too clear. But I would tell you this. The progression for me is I went to doing striking with a couple of my friends who I trust. There was one kid who's been doing like COVID tests like every week. And I said, you know, I want to give that guy business because I think it's such a hard thing to be a business or a small business and still operate. So I was like, you know what? This is good for me because like you, I was like, dude, I'm putting on weight and my magic trick is jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So bless you for being able to lose 10 to 15 pounds without jiu-jitsu. How'd you do it?
No, I just went back to like the kind of hardcore keto diet that I do when I cut weight for competition or that I lost my weight with originally. I only really put on the 10 to 15 pounds because I started, my wife started baking bread at home,
Yeah.
and I was basically, I was making a lot of I was making a lot of homemade tortillas, so I basically was eating badly compared to how I would normally eat when I was training. So I just went back to eating sensibly again, because I was running 5K every day, so yeah, it wasn't like I wasn't exercising. I just was eating garbage compared to what I usually eat.
I mean, again, my magic trick has always been jiu-jitsu. So I hate running. I hate anything that's not jiu-jitsu. And I was able to say, all right, with boxing, at least it's kind of in the realm of I'm hitting something. So that's fun. And I'm learning because I think that's a big component too, because I would tell these guys who I would work with, I'm like, I don't know boxing like I know jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So I'm a blank slate, and I've appreciated people who've been very kind to walk me through it, but I can't run. And it just sucks to me.
It just can't at all.
So I'm doing this thing now where I explained this to Gary Tonin yesterday. I don't mind if I get fat because what I do is I literally went into meal prep mode. So I'm eating now like I'm in a fight or I've got a match coming up. I started reducing portions, but maximizing the amount of meals that I have per day. Really, really low, focusing on meals that will help me mitigate eating like an idiot. Because for the first 2 or 3 months, you're just thinking to yourself, this has to end, like,
right,
I'll just
exactly.
It's fine. And before that, I was on a show where they had catering every day. So lunch was provided for us. And some of my coworkers were complimenting me because these were 12, 14-hour days of production that they go, wow, Raph, you eat very well. And I was like, it's because I can't train jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. You didn't notice that craft service is always there?
I know. And that's the worst. They were just like, I got a cookie. And I was like, yeah. And if I would look at them, I'd be like, well, I took half a cookie,
yeah.
I got to be at least honorable and real with myself. But after a while, I just said like, yeah, this isn't healthy either. So I think everybody's been trying to figure out what that thing that feels normal to them is. Is there a particular breaking point when it hit for you on COVID in terms of jiu-jitsu and training? Do you have a moment where you're just like, okay, this is enough?
What of when I suddenly got to the point where it's like I need to roll now regardless kind of thing? No, the last month or so has been tough because there are obviously people I know in the area who are rolling again.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When nobody in the area was rolling, and I was like, well, everybody's in the same boat. But, now it's got to the point where there are some people I know who are. And it's just, at that point, I'm like, well, I'm falling behind. I mean, I'm not because they're blue belts and purple belts and stuff. But they're at least going to have grappling cardio back. So, it's going to be a rough first month back.
I would tell you this is that one thing that I resolved for myself is I've done a couple small training sessions, a couple jiu-jitsu rounds, and I've just gone to like doing tape study on those rounds just to keep my brain fresh. And I've just been like, listen, guys, I'm not trying to think like this is going to make me win Abu Dhabi. This is just me saying, if I'm going to have significantly lower amounts of time to train, I have to make the maximized version of those training sessions. And what ended up happening was I ended up starting to tape it, and I would send clips to my friends and being like, hey, you idiot, you let him sweep you because you did this. And they'd be like, I didn't ask you to do that. I was like, well, you're getting it because I'm fucking smart. So you don't get a choice.
I am not that disciplined.
Well, I would tell you this. What you briefly mentioned as falling behind is a fear that I know a lot of people have, but it's something that I've always had as a jiu-jitsu thing, which is, hey man, it takes me 2 to 3 times longer than everybody else to learn a move. So even if these guys are training once a week and it's a good session, that means I got to get like 3 sessions, and I just don't have that.
Yeah. See, I don't quite have that problem. It's more like I know when I go back, my timing is going to be off. My cardio will probably be okay because all the running and everything.
You'll be all right.
But it's more like the timing and stuff. And there are guys who I train with every day where it can be hard rounds. And it's not that I don't want hard rounds, but it's like they're going to feel unnecessarily hard.
Yeah,
who doesn't like, everybody likes to win. Not, there's some guys obviously who I train with who've never tapped me. I don't particularly want them to start now. It's that simple.
Hey, listen, dude, I have upped my amount of trash talk. My wife has eloquently put in my life, she goes, you don't really talk trash about like sports things or to people unless it's 10 people. There's 10 people who you go, under no circumstance can they win. Right. And I've upped my trash talk to people to keep them accountable. And I've been like, yo, dude, I saw that clip of you. Your half guard looks like shit. And they're like, I'll get you, Raph. And I was like, I hope you do try, because I need to get some of these pounds off. So have that. I find that hard to believe.
No, I've had this discussion with you before. I'm not quick-witted enough to trash talk with some of these people. So, and to be fair, the people I do trash talk with, we're all super comparable in terms of skill level and stuff. I had a bit of a thing with one guy at the gym, New Year-ish, where, it was a younger guy, newer guy. Well, I'd say newer. I mean, he's good, but for a blue belt, he's good.
Sure.
But he's a young guy. He's in like 20, and he felt that he could shit talk me. Like, and some of the stuff and I was just like, what are you talking? Literally at one point I was in such a, like, I was tired. I was in a tired state. We're doing this thing we do called Circle of Death, where basically you get a new person every 20 seconds and it lasts like 10 minutes in a row.
Oh God.
Right. And he comes up to me and I can't remember what he said, but it was something that just ticked me the wrong way. And I'm like, why are you saying that to me? Like, I can literally crush you, So it's yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he just felt that the vibe was different. I don't know. But most of the time, I don't really care. If someone wants to shit talk me, fine. It doesn't bother me. I just don't shit talk them back because I'm not quite wet enough. That's literally what it comes down to.
I did have somebody who I just trained with like recently who looked at me and said, hey man, you've got a really good poker face. So it's really hard to read when we're rolling if something's bad to you. And I go, yeah, that's intentional. And he goes, really? And I go, yeah, bro, you're young and really athletic. So I'm not going to try and play a dumb game with you. I'd like for you to think that everything you do is dumb so that you second guess what you're doing. And he goes, damn, dude, it's like you're shit talking me without even talking to me. And I was like, precisely. That's my gift.
That's brilliant. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, you won't ever get a reaction from me while I'm rolling with anyone. Like, it doesn't happen. It's very similar. It's not the only time it's intentional is if I'm caught in something really bad and I make a particular effort to not show that I'm caught in something really bad. And seriously, 90% of the time people stop. Like they stop because they're like, well, this isn't working. It really was,
Well, it's a psychology of it. It's basically, are we getting a stalling call?
This was going to be the most aggressive of the opening round matches for sure. I mean, Vosgrone is kind of a, big beastly guy. Tom Breese is obviously, UFC fighter. I don't know if he still fights for the UFC, but UFC fighter and British freestyle wrestling team. So.
Well, I have an appreciation for Fred. There was a right up top, and we didn't really get a chance to address it, but Fred shoots in. Tom Breeze immediately counters with like a Kimura trap.
More aggressive.
And the two of them start exchanging into a series of just position to position to position. And I think that Fred is just trying to cook Tom continuously. And Tom has been doing a great job of trying to frame from here. But it is interesting that they would give him that stalling or like say like, hey, let's stand you back up. And we are exactly back to the same position here.
Yeah, and it's sorry, my dog's going to attack someone out the window.
It's okay. I was about to say, I was like, did your dog have better analysis? Because if he wanted to go ahead and add on to that, I'm all about
that. Fred is being really mean here. Like, have you seen the forearm is constantly going on the chin, the hand is going on the the face kind of smothering. He's trying to make this really nasty.
I think part of that is by design of, listen, dude, if you start to try and bring this UFC fighter into thinking it's a fight, maybe you kind of play him into a little bit of a, hey, listen, I'm going to attack you before you could possibly attack me.
Did you watch the Polaris we did in Manchester where we had Chris Fishgold and Liam Khan on that one?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
That is the best example of as someone who is an actual fighter. You know, he's at Fight Island at the moment. You know, he's got a match. I don't know if it's this card or the next one. But like Chris is a nice guy, but he's not a nice guy if you piss him off. You know, he's got a fuse that's like is big. And it's live TV for you.
Hey, listen, bro. If you don't think this is normal, it's grossly mistaken.
Now the Beagle has joined in. Oh, it's okay. Sorry, hang on a second.
You're all right.
I'm going to calm them down.
I appreciate it. Please tell her thank you. I would let you know, in my world, I have a little French bulldog, and this little French bulldog will be sleeping, and then all of a sudden when I'm about to go on air, she has a true producer's brain because she comes over and goes, "I'd like attention now." And I go, "No, I'm on
about it the previous hour."
Yeah, like this is live. There's nothing I can do. So I want to say one of the first few days that we had her and she was starting to get attention, I would just pick her up and pull her in the broadcast. And I would put her on camera and I'd look at her and I'd go, "Is this what you want?" And she would make these bug out eyes. She eventually stopped her shit. So she has calmed down profusely. But there have been a couple interviews where I've had to hold her just in hand just because she just wants me to hold her. And I'm like, is this where we're at? All right, tell me, Wagner, how did you win that match?
My beagle would probably sit here and be part of the show, you know, quietly. My coonhound, on the other hand, is just an asshole.
Hey, hey, man, listen, nobody's gonna dislove a dog. Dogs are great. I would tell you though, it is 4-1 in favor of Fred. I believe just talking about the amount of control and the amount of discomfort Tom has had throughout this match. He has not figured out a way to regard. Well, as he gets back to his knees and he's standing up.
Oh, here we go on the wizard. Oh, I'm surprised he didn't try and. I think Fred's probably gonna pull guard here.
Maybe, but I think that yep, nicely picked there, sir. I think what it was is I think Tom said, "Listen, dude, maybe I could try to sweep him or try to come in underneath or do something, but I would rather stand up at this point."
You know what? This would be a great venue if there was a crowd.
I know.
It's like 360, but not, but fairly steeply ramped. It's not massive, which means that, it would probably get filled in, if it wasn't for the pandemic. So, yeah.
I mean, and obviously one of the hardest things, and I don't know if you had to try and talk about this when you would be a broadcaster on these things, is the thing that was upsetting to me was that wall, that back wall.
Yeah.
The old venue always seemed to, with jiu-jitsu gravity, come at the expense of re-putting them back to the center. And I don't care if it's a different amount of space because it looks pretty similar in terms of space. But grapplers just gravitate towards, let me put you through this now.
No, I agree. I don't aesthetically. I never like the shows that are on a stage that have a very one-directional, way the audience faces. The way, like from my perspective, I have to do post-fight interviews for these guys, and whenever you have a cage and the audience only on one side, or a mat and the audience only on one side, the producers and directors always want you to face away from the audience, so the audience are in the back of the shot, which is fine. But the fighters don't understand that, and they constantly want to turn around and talk to the audience. So, it annoys me. But I would always rather have an in the round, always.
I would tell you this: one nice thing that happened toward the end is I don't know if you caught it, but Tom, when he was trying to guard or protect himself from getting swept from a half guard, jokingly looked like he was going to drop an elbow. And I thought that was a great thing to end with Fred. The two of them exchanged a nice little look at each other.
That was a good little single from Vosgran there. I mean, I sort of expected Vosgran to win that match, but I didn't really know how it would go in the actual match. I just kind of expected that, you know, Brees is a great grappler, but he's not just a grappler. You know, Vosgran is just a grappler.
Yeah.
You know.
No, this is solid, man. All right. So we kind of see like he's going to put that pressure on, which is really nice. So it's nice to see Fred's going to advance.
I didn't realize, I have to say, that Brad and Ross are on the same side of the bracket, because that's a tricky semi there. That could go either way. Ross should take it, but it could go either way.
Are we already on that side? Is this the fourth match?
This is the third match. So you got Sylvia and Taylor Pearman.
Okay.
In the fourth one. And I have a history with Taylor Pearman, so this will be interesting.
What is the history?
Well, it's a good part and a bad part. He came up to my club right before I moved to the US, like 2 weeks before I moved to the US, and showed me some really nice guillotine details that have, like, for a one-arm guillotine from Side Control, which has become my highest scoring submission I've ever had.
Oh, I'm gonna have to pick your brain on that at some point.
On that side, awesome, very happy, very thankful. However, he then broke my foot when we rolled. He steamer locked me.
Oh no!
And he got it, and he stopped like you would expect someone to, and then he cranked it and broke it. And he said, he said, "You look like you weren't bothered." I was like, that's where the poker face went wrong. So 2 weeks before I moved to the US, he snapped my foot with the steamer lock.
To be fair, of all the moves, the steamer lock is one of the most confusing kind of submissions that could have that happen. Like,
yeah, it wasn't confusing. I knew I was caught. I was just trying to be like, you know, at the time I was a brown belt and he was a purple belt. I mean, he's purple belt world champion, but like, you know, I think definitely Euros, possibly Pans, but anyway. But I was trying to, you know, be like, yeah, you ain't got me, and of course he bloody had me. So...
I mean, I don't know, man. I've been surprised by steamer locks that just can kind of come out of the blue, where you just go like, oh, that did happen. Well, congrats to you. We're done here, I guess. But
they're scary, man. I mean, if they go on quick, you can get, you know, they're not good.
And I mean, even when you see people like you know, the Steamer brothers kind of walk you through it, I just always go, hey man, I've usually got a pretty good idea of how to block a submission or how to like work around it. That's kind of my bag, is knowing a fair amount of defense to things. I don't know that I've got a lot of recall time to go ahead and get out of something like that at all.
Once it's locked in, yeah. I mean, what it had me do is it had me never put my foot on the inside of someone's hip. Now I'm always toes on the outside.
Was that no gi that he did that on too?
No, that was in gi.
Okay, that's the other thing I was concerned about, because the thing about that is the bitch of the friction with that, with the extra added part, the gi. I've always had people have higher degrees of success in the gi getting that on me.
I mean, I'll be super honest. The scariest submission for me from a training perspective, because I just don't think I've ever adequately built up a tolerance or a coherent, like, you know, reaction defense to it, is toe holds.
Yeah.
Like, that's, you know, that's my kryptonite a lot of the time.
Oh, hold on. Give me a minute here. Just want to.
That's not going to help you.
Oh, what do you mean? Listen, I got to tell you guys this. I am not a smart person per se at jiu-jitsu, but if I can take any advantage I can, I use a Batman-like file that is my great case of emergency, and that's when like people like Superman or Wonder Woman go crazy. I've got something to fall back on. So I'm not saying I'm going to hold you, but I'm saying if shit breaks bad, it's probably one of my first recourses. That's all. I joke about this with a lot of my friends, because I go, you know, I'll be in the room with people I have no business being in a room with. So I'll train with people, and I'm sure you have that as well, where you just go, these guys are champions. They go and win things, and they're the people we watch. And I'm just a guy who's a hobbyist in the room with these people when they're all getting ready for a big match or ADCC. And all I can think to myself is just give them good rounds, but don't
look like a dick.
Don't look like an idiot. So, it's nice, but I just tell people, I'm like, hey, listen, part of the beauty of the jiu-jitsu is, to me, it's like a crossword puzzle. So you get to kind of apply what feels like a puzzle to me, where I got to work myself out of bad situations and make them good.
Yeah. No, it's man, anytime I roll with somebody who's legitimately up there, I'm very conscious of the fact that they can pretty much end me at will. like I'm not, I'm a competent hobbyist black belt. That is the way to describe it. I am not. Yes, I've competed at every belt level. I've won matches at every belt level, but I'm not a competitor. I'm a 36-year-old hobbyist in the reality of the situation. And it's like, it's like you say, just try not to try and give them at least something that makes it interesting for them. I rolled with Boogeyman last year, and I've never rolled with somebody who has an overhook game like that. And I didn't have an answer. I didn't have an answer that would allow me to survive more than 10 seconds once he grabbed it, if that. And I remember I came off the round and I was just like, man, that was ridiculous. I couldn't do anything. And Rich Byrne looks at me and goes, he's a professional grappler, right? That's all he does. I'm like, yeah, but I should have at least had something.
I mean, there's a little bit of analysis of I'm a black belt, or I'm this, or all these things that I'm sure that go through people's heads. But I mean, there are levels to the game.
Of course there are.
And one of the things I like to tell people is I feel like it is hilarious to me when people do this thing where there are certain athletes that do not enjoy my brand of defense because they can't crack the code.
Right.
So there are some professional grapplers who, when I'm on air, will go, Raph, you're pretty good. And I was like, no, this isn't about me. Nah. And they'll out me on air. They'll just be like, no, man, you got really good defense. And I'm like, sure, but I wouldn't have won under any point circumstance. I just was annoying to you. And, I tell people, I'm like, I'm aware of what you can do. It's just a lot of the times, how can I make it stop or make it good for me?
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, hey, it's we always say this, don't we? It's the nice thing about the sport is we can roll with these people.
Oh yeah, absolutely, dude. It's one of the best aspects of this. So I think you were saying earlier that you believe that Ross is on this side. He's actually on the other side of the bracket.
Yeah, Ross, that's what I said. Ross and Brad have got a match in the semis, which I didn't know they were on the same side of the bracket.
Got it. Okay. I wasn't sure if you were talking about this side. I was like, what the fuck is he talking? Okay. So on this side, this will decide and close us up for, I guess, the opening round, and already making at least a decent attempt to go and
so with this one, I think Silvio is stronger and more powerful. Taylor is going to be more technical generally. That's pretty much how I'd break this one down.
Okay. How familiar are you with either of these grapplers?
I'm going to roll with Taylor.
Okay.
I didn't know much about Silvio until his last showing on Polaris, where he busted his rib.
Oh, that's right. I forgot he busted his rib on that one. Oh my god.
So I'm not that familiar. I've never trained with him. I don't.
Gotcha.
I hadn't really heard of him before that event. So.
Well, like I said, I mean, one of the things that was the byproduct of losing some of the Americans who were going to fly out for this, or the folks who were supposed to be in the original 8-man tournament, is I was immediately happy for Ross Nichols to be a centerpiece of the promotional aspect of it. I said, oh, dude, what a great windfall for him, because I think somebody who deserves that. And at the same point, I don't know all these grapplers even as well as you do. So to me, I've recognized them. I've seen them a couple times. So this is always like a great reintroduction of, oh, I like them, or I remember they did this, you know?
Yeah, I would particularly, and I think I've said this to Ross in person as well, as I really wish at some point he'd be like, right, I'm gonna go take 2 months and like live on the East Coast with some people and just visit a bunch of gyms and do a bunch of the, like when there's a finishers on or a rate, is it radius, or like when there's a bunch of those on, and just get out there across a bit more of the US would be nice, because he doesn't travel and compete all that much at all.
Yeah, I'm always astounded how little I see him, but how much I appreciate when I do see him.
Yeah, because there's a lot of high level guys who would have a lot of trouble with him, but you just don't see the matches all that often, and it's a shame.
And I also have to say, I remember interviewing him and just thinking, like, what a nice guy. Like, I really liked my conversation with him. So I don't know, man. I'm always, it's hard to explain to people, but I like when I watch a match and I'm rooting for them to win, because I go, I hope you win this so we can just catch up.
Yeah. Yeah. No, Ross is a nice guy. He has a good sense of humor, and, it would just be nice to see a bit more of him. But it looks like Matt's judging and looking very.
I was about to say,
very focused in the background there.
I'm so glad you picked that up at the exact same time I did, which I was like, is Benyon on this planet anymore right now? Because I think somewhere else.
So I think Neil Williams, who's a Welsh black belt, was supposed to be one of the judges, and I know had to pull out at the last the last day or so. So I guess Matt had to step in.
Oh my God, Benyon makes me laugh. That's great. Good for him. I just like the fact that, some of the behind the scenes photos that I saw of the very first couple Polarises, you see the adorable one of him with his kids and all that sort of thing. Oh, yeah. But then you see like the ones that I relate to, which are the producer that's doing this look. Like, oh God, I gotta fix this now, and I gotta do this. And I was like, those are real photos.
He does. All the guys do such a good job in the week running up to this, because as you well know, stuff goes wrong, and they deal with it really well. Yeah. And to be honest, I know that most of the guys, Matt particularly, they have an attitude once they get to, like, now, once the show's about to start, it's like, well, all the people who are doing these things know what they're doing. Yep. So if something goes wrong, they'll figure it out. Like, James, who does all the lighting production and stuff on this, is basically running as the floor manager for this event. He does the same thing on Cage Warriors, right? He knows what he's doing. The director knows what he's doing. I hope, know what I'm doing. Yeah. So, maybe. But, like, do you know what I mean? Everybody knows what they're doing. So there's not really ever anything that can't be solved by, the people they've put in place to do their jobs. As long as everyone does their job, then so be it. Yeah. I feel bad for the commentary guys on this one. They are so far away.
So I didn't see how far they are. How far back are they?
They're up on the stage.
No,
they look like they're a good 30 feet.
Oh no. So are you looking at the monitor, or are you looking at the action typically?
When you're that far away, you're looking at the monitor a lot of the time.
Yeah.
A lot of the time. Do
you tend to watch the actual match, or are you watching off of the monitor if you have a choice?
I would rather watch the actual match. Over the course of an event, I probably end up watching the monitor more than the match. It really depends on where I am and what's going on and angles and stuff. But most of the time, if I have to go to the monitor, I forget to look away from the monitor. Does that make sense? Yeah. So if something forces me to look at the monitor, I'm probably looking at it for the next 2 minutes, even if I don't need to. So
it's hard for me because I always like to paint the picture of television to television. So I'm always like, I shouldn't have more viewing than the audience. And if I do,
Yeah.
I really want to explain to them, like, if there's like a break in the action, or I think honestly the hardest thing any professional grappler broadcaster has to do is cover when someone's injured, because there's not a process like Fox where they have like a little robot that comes in and they play the sad music and they cut to commercial. This is where I see the professionals from the people who go, well, he's still there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you need I will say where you see most people do a bad job of that. I mean, partially it's because they're not commentators.
Mhm.
They also tends to be on broadcasts where they don't have the benefit of a director being in the truck going, well, we're going to show you some replays now that you can talk over, you know. But yeah, you've just got to talk about other stuff. It's literally that simple. Like, you know,
you
pick out 3 or 4 other things, talk about matches that are coming up, talk about events that are coming up, talk about what's already happened, you know.
Yeah, just you have to pick something is usually my note.
Right.
Is if I was the person in the truck, I'm like, just shut up for a second and think of one thing and then immediately start talking about that thing.
Yeah.
Because if you don't make the person feel at home, then that's when people start to freak out. And so I think there was no better example of this than I think that time, I think it was an EBI where it was a kids match and there was a super fight and one of the kids got heel hooked really bad. And we're talking,
I think I remember. Yeah.
They're only like 13, 14, 15, and everybody was freaking out. And the commentary didn't cover. So the commentary didn't cover, and they were kind of at a loss of what to do. And I go, if you're at a loss, the audience is at a loss.
Sure.
So it's really, really important. But that's where, to me, I would take my eyes off of the monitor and I would say, let's give you guys a little bit of what's going on here. We've got medics that are coming over to the stage, because you wouldn't see that necessarily on TV. So,
no, well, if they're a competent production crew, your director and your producer are competent, they're not going to be showing the athlete injured on the mat anyway.
Absolutely.
You know, it's not going to happen. Like we had one in Cage Warriors last year in, like, where were we? I want to say we were in Belgium, and it was a check of the kick that snapped the leg. And they're always rough. But yeah, that was one of the, we had covered for a long time for that. But you know, you can't show. I think we showed the replay a couple of times because you know. But I don't think we only showed it once because we showed it enough that it could get clipped and go viral on social media.
Sure.
That was basically it, and then we were like, we're not showing it again. You know.
Bless them for that decision. I would tell you that there was a local series of fights that I was covering, so I was just out there, and I've got this nice little gimbal that I can use for my iPhone. Oh, so nice. I'm literally holding this gimbal like this, and it's a kickboxing bout. And this dude gets knocked the fuck out in front of me, and I literally go from, oh, okay. So I put it down, and the whole show comes to a halt as he's looking pretty good for a split second, but he's, nice way to end that though. So it's looking pretty rough, dude. And this dude gets knocked the fuck out. And my buddy comes up to me and he goes, "Did you get the footage?" And I go, "I have every second of that." And he goes, "Are you going to post it?" I was like, "I need to see the guy's okay."
Yeah.
I can't. I'm not an outlet. Like, I'm not an ESPN that says, "Well, here's what happened. There you go." I'm a guy who literally am the editorial decider who goes, "Hey, I really want my page to do great numbers. Look at this guy die in front of us."
Yeah.
So 2 days later, my buddy sends me a note that shows he's out of the hospital, and I go, "Oh, now I can post it." Yeah, that's
it was that bad.
Yeah, I mean, he went to the hospital that night, and I think they just kept him under surveillance. We're about to find out who won.
Taylor won, didn't he? Or was it draw on points in the end? I thought Taylor won 1-0.
It went to the judges for the final decision.
Ooh.
And that is going to be Taylor getting the win there. So good for him. All right.
Yeah, if I'd had to put money down, it would have been on Taylor.
You've been very good in letting us know afterwards who you would have bet on.
No, excuse me. I think I got most of these right.
Yeah, but you keep doing this thing at the end that's just like, well, it's a good thing it worked out exactly how I thought it would have. Just the worst hindsight ever.
Now is where it gets dicey. Like, okay. I think semis. I'm gonna go Ross and oh man, Freddie and Taylor's a tough one. I wonder if Freddie's just gonna be physically too powerful. So
That's my
I'm gonna
question.
go. Yeah, I'm gonna go Freddie and Ross in the final. That's my pick.
So you normally don't have to make predictions. Have you ever had somebody hear that you made a prediction and come talk to you afterwards about it?
No, because I won't do it.
I mean, you just did.
Right, but now it doesn't matter. Like, I won't do it. It doesn't. It doesn't. They don't get it.
Hey, listen, I understand. I'm letting you explain what you explained, but I just like that you're like, I wouldn't do it. And I go, you just did.
No, I mean, if it's an event that I'm working, I won't do it. It's
Right.
it's that simple. Yeah, it's that being said, Brad, who I commentate caterers with, we have a private little discussion right before we go live where we're like, what do you reckon? What do you reckon? What do you reckon? You know, but that's just between us, so we sort of have a gauge on what's going on.
Oh, I love that.
So.
I think that's great. I think more people should be doing that.
But yeah, I'm never going to publicly go, this is going to happen, you know.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I will never, stop from giving an opinion on it. And there are a lot of people, for example, tonight, I got hit by people who were asking me, who do I have in the match between, you've got Masvidal and Usman. And I tell them up front, I'm like, I'm just so in favor of wanting to see Masvidal win that I am willing to say I want him to win.
Right.
But I don't know that I can tell you with great certainty that he has a game that will 100% beat a crafty Usman. So it's a little bit of an X factor, but I caveat it, and I'm like, I'll tell you this, I'm happy to go ahead and take just a blind guess tonight that Masvidal could pull it off. And that's it. I'll leave it at that. But I've had people listen to us and come and have words with us when they've heard that we didn't pick them.
Really?
Yeah, most times it's in jest. But I'm also not the type of personality that really takes shit. So it's usually going, I'm sorry, you're mad that we didn't pick you? And they'll be like, yeah. And I'll be like, okay, well, you're a grown-up, so I'm going to talk to you like a grown-up, which is, who the fuck cares?
Yeah, in the scheme of things, who cares? I mean, if they go on Twitter, they'll have, a couple 100,000 people telling them the shit. So,
I just laugh because I've seen, as recently as we did one of these fight companions for a Submission Underground, Mason Fowler was on it. Mason comes on my show 2 days later. Mason hits me up with a note that says, hey, you didn't pick me to win. And I was like, I didn't pick anybody. But he was like, well, you didn't pick me to win. Everybody else, like, they picked who they thought was going to win, and you got left over with Roberto Jimenez, who was your Pokemon, and you didn't pick me as your Pokemon. It was like, bro, you need to find a life. Like, I don't know another way to tell you this. Yeah, you know what I've been thinking? I hate to interrupt you here, but while I got you here, I haven't interviewed Dan Strauss yet, and I feel it's about time.
All right, yeah.
What do I need to know about him? Because normally I have to do a fair share of work to help the guys kind of find a way to tell their story. He's somebody who's pretty good and animated in his own
right. You won't have to, like, he has a podcast himself. He's going to be fine, and you've obviously, the classic question you have to ask him is how he got his name.
Yeah. I always know, I'm like, it's so weird because normally I get one of the first interviews with people. On this one, he has such a well-documented series of interviews and his own podcast that I've just gotten to a point where I've been like, yeah, he's on my list of I haven't done yet. And at some point I need to. So I've just been kind of in that mode of like, I think I need to just end this and just reach out to him and be like, hey, bro, do you want to be interviewed?
Yeah, he'll do. He's, Dan's a nice guy. I've never not had a fun time hanging out with him. So, awesome. And as I say, his podcast is good. This is gonna be a good match. This is. Ooh, What the hell?
What's up?
Okay, interesting. Did Brad move academies that I did not know about?
Oh.
Said 222 Academy. Is he still Gracie Baja under Braulio? Did I miss that?
It's very interesting because I thought I heard Gracie in there, but that's on the earpiece where I'm not sure. So that would be a good point of clarification. But very nice of you to spot that right up front.
I wasn't sure. This is going to be a tough match. I'm going to lean towards Ross, but
well, you already picked him.
Yes,
so
I did.
There is a note. Look at this. This as a thing. That's Ross, your two picks.
Ross is Fred. Okay, right.
That's who you picked. I literally wrote it down so that at the end of it, if you end up seeing Brad get the win, you're not going to be like, well, it's a good thing I called that one too. I'd be like, no, I have it written down here, sir.
So back when I used to watch, actually watch MMA as a fan, before there was more MMA than you can possibly keep up with, and I occasionally would gamble on the fights. I was awful at it because I would always end up going with who I would prefer win over who I actually thought was capable of winning, which is the main reason I don't gamble, particularly. So
the best thing you can know as a gambler is how to pick fights. The second best thing is that you are not good at picking fights. Anything outside of those two things means you should not be gambling. And I have plenty of people who always talk about odds and want to figure out if they should be gambling, or they hit me with lines and betting lines. I had one fighter who recently reached out to me when I put up one of the betting lines and said, ooh, those are good odds. Should I take it? And I was like, yeah, it's pretty good odds on this fighter. And they go, cool, how does it work? And I was like, you are not allowed to bet.
Yeah.
You don't get to bet.
So I have to say, I've always thought, do you bet on fights at all?
So I'll tell you this much. How do I put this?
Oh wait, is it illegal where you are?
No, it's legal.
Oh, okay.
I just had a policy from 2012 on that when I was transitioning to doing more of this stuff and covering fights live, especially when I was covering the UFC, I just really want to try and be a professional, and I don't want to mix those two things.
Sure.
And as I've evolved and done more, silly stuff like this or the podcast where there are less rules, I just go, dude, I don't want to bet. I don't want to have anything marred on my objectivity because someone didn't give me a return on bet.
Right. Okay.
And that would affect me going on the next week and being like, well, I hate Jorge Masvidal. I've always hated him. Really wish you would have pulled up for me because I had $40 on him, and being like, who gets mad over $40? That's a stupid thing to do.
Yeah.
So, but growing up, I am what one might call a compulsive gambler.
Okay.
So I want to always bet on things, but I've learned how to control it where, I'll do stupid things when I'm rolling with people and being like, ooh, I got $10 that says I can pass your guard. Because that's just funny.
Never thought about that before. Yeah.
Well, here's the reason why. Is when you roll with the same people over and over again, you have to find ways to make it entertaining to yourself. So I've done things as silly as if somebody's got a fight coming up and I need them to be a little bit extra, in the rounds. And I've got one guy who's a really nice person, a nice human being, but he fights for a living. And I can tell when he's going too nice on me. And it's 4 weeks out of a fight. And I'm like, bro, you need to
you need to be murdering people.
So then there was one day I literally pulled out $1 from my wallet and I go, all right, whoever, you have to sub me or you don't get this. And I swear to God, $1 made this man a madman. He was coming at me. And the only reason it matters is because you put a value of, you get this if you beat me.
Sure.
Doesn't matter the financial terms. It just was him saying ooh, I know that Raph loves to gamble. So that's right. Become my policy on gambling and all this.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not going to try that in my academy just yet. But
well, especially if you got blue belts who are smack talking you and you're just like, do you know I can murder you, son?
I don't know. It just.
You know what it is, though? I think it's because you don't make an actual thing of doing it, that the fact that you get somebody who feels like right at the start of it, like they can be in that wheelhouse to you of being able to talk shit, it's just got to be kind of a surprise of like, hey, bro, we don't do that here.
There is such a difference between, and again, this is not me saying I'm a good grappler in the context of really good grapplers. I'm not, but in the context of a club, you know, it's a club with 270 members, and I am one of 9 black belts. So, like, that's where I sit in the hierarchy, right? So yeah. It's like, yeah, I don't go out of my, like, the difference between me being nice and me not being nice is really, really big. Like, it's absurd. Because I am so chilled 99% of the time.
Yeah.
And I'm not an aggressive person at all. But, you know, I'm not incapable if I have to be. Do you know what I mean?
It's... didn't just get a black belt out of nothing, especially with 13 years of grappling, you know?
Right, exactly. So you know, but yeah, I don't want to be, you know, I don't want to be, I prefer to have a more chilled environment. I do it for fun, unless, you know, there is a competition or something going on. There's no point in being an arsehole about it. I had a wider point to make, but I completely forgot it in the middle of that.
No, man. Hey, listen, dude. If there's one thing I know about you is that our first interactions were giving you shit, and you had a good sense of humor about it. And to me, that's the quickest way of knowing, like, yeah, I want to talk to that guy. Like, if you took it a wrong way, you know, it's kind of one of those things where I would be like, hey, listen, you know, we're just joking, dude, but we don't have to be friends, you know? Like,
yeah,
but you have a good sensibility of like, they're just being stupid. Like that. Okay. I get it.
It has to build it. For me to actually get annoyed with someone, it would have to build up and build up and build up, and then just not get the message at any point. But, you know, it doesn't have to, like, what are we talking about? Like 4 or 5 times the whole time we've been grappling. Has it ever happened like that? So, you know, so be it. It's not.
It's still funny to me. I mean, I went back and I saw that clip, and every once in a while when I want to repost it, I'm always like, yeah, I should repost it. But I also, like, I get to a point where I'm like, I'm just not in the mood to give him that kind of shit right now, because there are so many people who are far worse at doing dumb shit that I don't want to equate those two things. You know, like you having shoes on a mat or like once or twice on a 1-day basis when it's the first one of them. Well, I think it was more than once, if I'm being honest.
Well, no, it was multiple times on the same day, but come on.
I count that as more than once. We wouldn't have brought you on if you just had done it the one time on that day. I would have been like, you know what, guys, doing production, it's hectic. When I saw you do it again, I go, yeah, we gotta make fun of this guy.
Do you know what? It never, because you don't worry about shoes when you're doing MMA, right? You really don't.
No.
And it just never occurred to me that I should treat it any differently.
Listen, dude, I mean, here's the good news. The internet was way more tame then than it is now. So I'm just glad that you didn't get that shit now, because it's one thing to get it from a bunch of yahoos who have a pretty clear sense of humor. But there are so many meaner people who just say really dumb shit. And I'm like, no, don't get me wrong. He's really good at his job. But the reason why it's funny is because he's really good at his job, and he did that. And that's why
I appreciate the sentiment.
Hey, listen, if I thought you were shit, it's not fun to make fun of somebody who's shit and be like, and they don't wear fucking socks on the mat.
That's a fair point. At that point, it's just bullying.
Yeah, and that's not what we do. But, you know, hey, man, well, let's talk about this. There's 2 minutes and 20 seconds left in this match. It's been a little bit of a stalemate. I'm pretty sure this has gone fairly like you thought it would. I think you saw
double-legged him there.
I was about to say the sweep attempt into a double leg. Not too bad on that one. But it is interesting because – go ahead.
No. You go. I had nothing more to say.
The reason why I was just on a tangent here was I wanted to bring up the fact where if I were a guessing man, I would assume this is in line with how you probably did see this match going, with Ross trying to pull guard.
Yeah. Well, Ross always pulls guard. That's a given. But I didn't expect anyone to score any substantial points in this match because they're too even, and these two guys, I presume they've fought a few times before, but I honestly can't remember. But I don't know who's winning because, as is typical, I'm not watching this with a judging eye. I'm talking to you, so I don't actually have the slightest clue who's winning in the context of Polaris rule sets.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that's a little iffy is over the years, Polaris, and it's something that I think is important to acknowledge while also saying, hey, it is part of their history, is at the very beginning, the rule sets were always, can we talk about this and fix it? And they've done their part to do improvements on the rule sets. But the hardest part about grappling is if there's not finality with points, decisions always have an element of that doesn't feel right.
Yeah, no, I mean, unless it's super clear, but yeah, nobody likes decisions,
No.
But at the same time, if anyone's well matched, you're probably going to get stalemates most of the time. It's just what happens.
Well, also just consider, Polaris was also very famous about being one of the few events that would do both gi and no gi matches. And stylistically, gi matches are very difficult to match up. And yet at the same point, I have to say, I feel like one of my favorite Polaris recent gi matches was Burns and Lineker.
Yeah, but that's because you got Tommy Lineker. Well, I mean, Gilbert as well. Gilbert's insane. Like, he'll fight anybody, anytime, anywhere. But it's because you got Tommy. Like, Tommy makes gi fun to watch.
Absolutely. I just knew
that
on
many
paper,
competitors I think are fun to watch in gi from my perspective. Like,
fair. I just root for gi. I don't know that gi roots for me. This is the way I've kind of come to it, where I'm like, man, I love the gi, and then I'll watch an event of it, and I go, that one was rough, but I still like the premise and the hope for it. But with the two of them, man, I remember that was the first time I got to speak with Tommy, and I just was telling him, and I tried to be as complimentary as possible, where I said, hey, man, I think you guys got to steal part of that show that was already going to be interesting with Nicky Rod and Rockhold. You gave us the great grappling match that we needed for that event, and I appreciated that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'd agree with that.
I just want to respond to a comment here. Abu, they have started for Polaris. Yes, we are in the process of watching it. And right now you're going to see Ross Nichols advance to the finals.
Oh!
And we're going to see what happens momentarily when we go to the other side of the bracket to see who will advance. So yes, but we are not quite at Fight Island yet. That'll happen in about 3 hours time. Actually, closer to 2.5, but who's counting?
Oh, look, Ralph, it's another occasion where I predicted the winner correctly.
Oh, shut up. Listen, you should have bet money on it then, kid, if you're so confident what it is you're doing.
So back to the point I was going to make. So I haven't gambled on MMA for a very, very long time. And I didn't do it a whole lot in the first place because I don't really gamble that much anyway. But when people gamble on MMA, do they honestly just bet single fights? Because I've never seen a set of odds where I'm like, well, that's a worthy return without betting a ridiculous amount of money. I'm like, okay, give me a 6-fight parlay that I've got to get correct, and then it's worth my while. But I'm so risk averse. I'm like, betting, I wouldn't bet $200 to win 220. Especially not in fights.
I tell people very cautiously, don't bet anything more than you're comfortable losing. Like, that's how you have to approach it to begin with. So we have a lot of guys going like, how much should I put down? I was like, well, tell me, how much would you feel comfortable losing?
It's whatever value you place on the entertainment perspective of doing it. Mm-hmm. Would be my answer. Like anytime I've been in Vegas, it's like, okay, that is what I'm comfortable entertainment wise spending.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's how I always look at it.
I would tell you this though, I do believe single fights are intriguing only when the betting lines seem to not know what I might know. So, for example, a couple weeks ago, I want to say, and I still feel grappling's trying to get a grasp as to how to do any of this, but Nate Orchard was pretty severely an underdog, and granted, he lost to Roberto, I believe, in overtime. I think they might have went to overtime. If not, he No, he might have triangled him in regulation. But either way, I was like, listen, I'm not saying that I think Orchard is going to win the whole thing, but if you want to put a decent amount of money that's comfortable, there's a lot more upside. But you have to be comfortable in saying, hey, listen, this might not happen because Roberto is
Sure.
fucking on fire right now. Those are different situations because those odds, I'm like, they don't make sense. And whoever was betting on Mason Fowler in that 8-man tournament probably got a good return. So every once in a while, I could see that as it. But by and large, it's very rare that MMA fights give you amazing odds.
No, in which case, to me personally, in my sensibility, it's not worth it at all. So
now that's professional betting. Do you do betting amongst your friends though?
no, not really. I mean, maybe some of my friends bet amongst themselves, but I actually don't know anyone who does, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, like I said, I know very quickly when I found friends because I can spot the compulsive gambler amongst the group because I just go up to them and go, hey, bud, I can see you're a gambler. And they're like, how'd you know? And I was like, you just have a look. You're going to be my friend. So don't worry. We're going to get along great. There was
I might have to try that thing where I start placing money on rolls in the gym now.
I swear to God, but make it a nominal amount that does not matter, because if you actually put real money to it, then it gets less fun.
Yeah, no, that's just.
But literally taking out a 1, a 10, even a 20 might be getting a little high here. But like any one of those dumb amount of dollars that you would buy a coffee with, or that you would buy a lunch, I swear to God, they will give you some of the funnest rolls you'll ever have, because I'm a huge sub-only guy. So I'm the guy who puts the money out and says, all right, we go till one of us taps. And I bring out like $1 and somebody will laugh it off. And sure as shit, they'll go way harder. And it becomes a joke that you have. There was one time where I think me and a buddy were passing the dollar back and forth because he would get me once, I would get him the next time. And it's just an inside joke to one of us where I think on air one time I was like, hey, man, do you have $1? And he's just like, no, I can't even tell you why I don't have $1 right now. And I'm like, cool. It's just fun.
So what we clearly need is a parody version of either The Hustler or Color of Money, but with grapplers.
Yeah, well, that's the only thing is I've let through the podcast, I've told all of my tricks. So if I walk into a place with like a cane, people are like, he's faking it. Raph is not fast or good, but he'll make it go 20 minutes. So we're aware of what he's going to pull here.
I also don't think anyone who actually grapples to any reasonable level is capable of just letting someone tap them like 10 times in a row and making it seem real.
Yeah, that's true. I can tell you what's not fake is, like, if I roll with John Combs, he has a pretty good ability to tap me, but every once in a while, like, what ends up happening is he'll tap me once or twice, and then I will figure it out. And then when I figure out the system, he gets even madder at me because I've literally learned. Like, I've been the artificial intelligence that learned.
The entire point of why we're here.
Yeah, and I was like, oh no, I figured out how he's doing this armbar. And then he'll become obsessed with trying to get that one move to the point where we'll roll, and then he'll send me a note 2 months later or something. He's like, hey buddy, how are you? I finally figured out next time I see you, I'm gonna fuck you up with this armbar. And I'm like, I don't matter. Why does this matter to you? It doesn't matter at all.
I would like to roll with him.
Super deceptively strong.
Hey, what do you mean deceptive? The dude looks built as hell.
Well, he's got the strength of how he looks, and then a little bit more because and I mean, you're somebody who's rolled with Nicky Rod, so you understand that concept of like, well, this is a lot of attrition at you, you know.
Yeah. It's more like, now I'm gonna die.
Right. But with Combs, it's that kind of attrition, but it's still very controlled, and he's very good at what he does. But the nice part is I can always give him feedback.
I liked him a lot on. I'd not really watched him much before, and Jay had always told me you know, how good he was and should watch out for him and that kind of thing. And then I actually got to call a match of his, and I was like, okay, dude, that was sick. I enjoyed that. And I spoke to him afterwards. He just seemed like a really nice guy. So I'm like, yeah, I could roll with you. That'd be fun.
There was a 5 grappling tournament, like an 8-man tournament, and he didn't win. I want to say he went to the finals with Edwin Najmi. And, you know, normally I have a policy of like, I definitely want to talk to whoever wins. But I also have a policy of you don't have to win to talk to me. If I just really dig what you did, I'll pull you aside. And sometimes these fighters or grapplers, they don't want to talk if they don't win, but I'll pull them aside and go, no, I want to talk to you. Yeah. And he was somebody that night who I just got a vibe where I'm like, let's talk. And we did a live broadcast from the event afterwards. And he was phenomenally funny where I said, hey, man, we're going to pull you on the show. We're going to do more stuff with you. And I haven't regretted it. Like, my instinct was right on with him where I said he's a good soul, good grappling, very intense, and just a very fun person to be around.
So this is going to be interesting. I think Taylor can definitely catch Fred if Fred doesn't appreciate that Taylor has some seriously tricky stuff. Like, look here, this is, yeah.
That was pretty dope, though. I was into that. I mean, it definitely caught Fred a little bit.
Slippery. Fred is crazy strong. You know, it's only going to be if he like doesn't appreciate what Taylor is capable of that he gets himself caught. Same entry again.
Yeah, I was about to say Taylor just is so consistent at getting this. And honestly, dude, you mentioned a little bit about the slipperiness, but like if you're going to catch any one of these submissions, now's the time you got to do it before he's getting so slick that even a good grip starts to fall away.
Yeah, it's gonna. I mean, if Fred gets the side control, he's tough to move.
Hey, you know what? This is turning into kind of a nice little match here. I wasn't expecting it to be. I mean, I expected attrition from Fred, but this actually is proving quite a nice counterbalance between the two of them.
It's going to be interesting to see how it goes over the 8 minutes, though, because like. Right now, if you've got to pick who's winning, well, it's Taylor, despite being in guard. You know, he's had a couple of good attacks. The question's going to be, he's got to keep the attacks up, you know. Otherwise, Fred's going to possibly grind him down and out-position him a bit, maybe.
This is, man, all right. This is good stuff.
I was just trying to hear what Dan was saying. Dan just said, the difference here is very simply, you can see, but I didn't hear what he said afterwards.
You know, I have to agree with you. And you brought up the crowd. And this is one of the ones, I don't say this a ton, but this event in particular, and you can maybe fill in some blanks, the crowd is kind of an important character from its get-go. I always thought a Polaris crowd was a very fun and interactive crowd.
It can be.
Oh, no. I mean, well, tell me why.
I can't hear them a lot of the time. That's what you got to remember. You know, there's a lot of stuff that's been shouted out in crowds before, and I honestly can hear that something has been shouted, but I haven't got any concept of what it was. You know, you got headphones on, and
I'm not blaming you. Okay.
You know, like it was. But if you want to talk fun crowds, I mean, you remember when AJ fought Louis Cooper, and I stood on the stage with AJ's post-fight interview, and someone threw a rubber foot at us.
Listen, dude. The amount of things that I want to say, there's been a several time amount that I've looked at you and said, "Kudos to you for keeping a straight face." And every time you've had to interview AJ Agazarm, all I think is, you know, there aren't enough awards in our industry to really give you an acknowledgement for something like that.
I usually know roughly what kind of narrative AJ is going to take. The one that him and Jake Shields was the one where I've been like, ooh, right, this is, you know, that was fun being in the middle of that.
You know, I want to.
Here you go. Here's the attrition now. Here's the out positioning and the attrition.
I mean, I didn't love the technique on it, but it's very similar to actually something I was working on with somebody where I said, like, hey, man, you don't have to always get a head and arm in that position. You don't always have to finish there. If you can wind the clock down and their whole body starts to get weaker from there and you learn how to transition from that position, you can easily take that into an arm. You can take that into taking their back. Like, it's not the end all and be all to always have to get a good head and arm, but
No,
doesn't
and
hurt
you
if
can
you
take
got it.
you can take 30 seconds off the clock and make it a very unpleasant 30 seconds for them.
Absolutely.
We
And
have one guy in our gym who, he trains a lot of judo separately as well, and he's
cheating.
got a Kezagatame, which is just like, it's evil, and it's like, okay, well, you're not going to submit me. This is really bloody uncomfortable, and then like I'm gonna be tired afterwards if you happen to let him get it,
Yeah.
There's no way in hell Taylor gets an arm off this. No way. They're too slippery now.
Yeah. At this point, you probably want to start transitioning to trying to take the back, and good luck trying to do that right now.
Yeah, I think. We'll see. I do expect Fred to be pretty immobile for the rest of this match, though. I think he's going to be really kind of not stalling, but stalling.
I mean, I will say this, Fred. Maybe you can tell me something different. Fred has a little bit of a modern day hipster Viking look to him.
Oh yeah, Viking was what I thought you were going to say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the only part is he doesn't have the full hair Vikingness to him, but he also has the hair of a Karate Kid villain.
Do you know what makes this particular? I hadn't thought about this actually just till now, but you realize these guys used to be part of the same team.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
So Fred is at Carlson Gracie HQ in London, and Taylor used to be Carlson Gracie Essex. Carlson Gracie Essex, and they all split off, and they're now ZR team. But Taylor was Carlson Gracie for like the bulk of his training.
Fascinating.
So, yeah, I don't really know if they put any stock in it, but
Hey, listen, for somebody who really doesn't do a ton of narratives, you've proven quite a very helpful resource here today, my friend.
I actually could have built that. Now that I think about it, that probably would have been one of the narratives I might have picked up on, but like, it didn't even occur to me because I'm not, not having to build narratives.
That's what I was about to say. I'm like, listen, dude, I will tell you this. When we started doing these fight companions, I said, all right, listen, the beauty of doing these things is that I don't have to be the version of myself that I would be on air. I can be looser. I can, be silly. I can tell stories. I can do whatever I want. But when I'm on air, it's like a deathly serious, like, hey, guys, if we spend more than 20 seconds away from the action, it's disrespectful to the athletes. So it's always like, listen, circle back your point to where we need to keep it on the action. Because you'll find a lot of the times guys get kind of lost in thought, and I'll be like, where are you? Are you watching this anymore? Sure.
Yeah. Like when I'm watching, I've watched Fight to Wins and they're talking about computer games. I'm like, what's going on here? Yeah, no, like full well that I'm not a tangent person when I'm doing this. So
hey, listen,
I'm a tangent person now because I can be, but
you're off duty now. I know there's no judgment here.
No, but you clearly you can see how different it is when my presenter demeanor is from me. Just like chilling out watching some fights.
Hey, listen, dude. The hardest thing to explain to people is that this is always fun in games because you're not doing a traditional play-by-play. I find that doing a fight companion, you give more of a greatest hits of painting a little bit of a picture and then saying like, you should be watching this. But if you aren't, and you're counting on us because you don't want to pay your UFC fight pass, well, I'll give you just a little bit of detail so that you're not quite lost. But it's not going to be a 1920s broadcast of the Yankees playing baseball.
Is it wrong that I'm not going to get the UFC tonight?
Why?
I don't buy UFC pay-per-views. Ever. I've never bought a UFC pay-per-view in my life.
Why? How do you not buy UFC pay-per-views?
So till I moved to the US, you didn't ever have to buy them because they're free in the UK.
Is that BT Sport is where they're on that?
Yeah. I don't know if it is still BT Sport, but yeah, it was always included.
Yeah.
And then when I moved here, it's like, unless I was going to sit down, if I was going to sit down and have friends over and watch it, like I've done that at other people's houses before. So I guess fine, I've chipped in for UFC pay-per-views before. But like, literally, I'm here with my wife and my dogs. I'm not going to pay $70 or whatever it is to sit and watch the UFC tonight. Like, it's just not on my, it's not on my radar of things to do with my Saturday night.
This is so like, I don't. You know what it is? It's kind of one of those things where I would never think you wouldn't, but then hearing that you don't, as the nerd that does all the homework, it's now making me realize that you are the jock that gets all the jobs I want, who does not do all the homework. And as the kid who's like, well, I read the fucking book and this, and we're going to get the same grade. God damn it, Josh Palmer.
I don't know shit about current MMA. in the UFC, I don't. Like, seriously. Like, I could look at a card and be like, okay, I recognize about 5 names. Because it's just, I don't spend my time watching events live.
Right.
And because I'm usually doing other stuff. And if I can't easily go and find a few matches that I want to watch, because they're paywall locked or whatever, then, hey, I'm not going to see it. Like, I don't care that much.
You know what? I've suddenly become a lot more conservative. I want to take your green card, visa, American citizenship out of here. Get out.
Oh, man. I don't know. I just,
there's something to be said.
I don't know. I will say I don't pirate them either. So
no. That's not the conversation.
I just don't like. I just don't watch stuff live.
Let me go ahead and paint part of the picture that helps this as well, which is you also do other things aside from commentating and being a broadcaster. You have another job. If this was your only job and you weren't doing those things, you and I might have words off camera, but you have other things that require your time. And I would hope that you have a family life where you get to enjoy things. Because I think that's one of the hardest things about our gig is that
my wife's chuckling.
Oh no. Did I say some untrue words? Hey, listen.
I don't know. Just to me.
Well, don't be a dick to your wife, really, is I guess where I should say that. Because my wife would say this to you. She would probably say, like, you're always watching these things, you're always doing this. But over the years, I've learned to develop all right, this is time for her. This is time for this. So we kind of make up for that. But it's taken years of getting it down perfectly. Oh, no, Josh Palmer. Josh.
I got a spam phone call.
Oh, okay, no problem. I couldn't tell if your wife was like, and that's enough of this. Goodbye.
Yeah. And no, she has texted me several times throughout this, though. She does not find Polaris entertaining.
Well, one of the hardest things I've had to do is I feel it's always important to be very honest in my assessments of what I see. And there have been some Polarises where I go, I didn't think that was good. And I think it's really important to be honest about it. And I like all the guys who put them on together. But there was a couple Polarises where I said, man, these are rough.
There is a difference between you and me not finding an event entertaining. And in my wife's case, it's that she doesn't grapple, therefore grappling is not entertaining, which is the case for 99.9999999% of people who don't grapple. And about 60% of people who do grapple.
But can I tell you, though, your wife is exactly the challenge I live for as the narrator.
Oh, you're going to win.
No.
You're silly.
Shut up. I'll tell you why. And this is, I guess, part of the difference that goes more towards my comedy stylings background, which is if I get in a room and people aren't laughing, I'm not doing my job right. So, I think that there's a difference between having a really boring event and just being like, well, we're shit out of luck. I tell people, like, and I think you'll understand this as well. I take competition in the form of broadcasting where if I see it's a really rough interview or event, I get like somebody who's in a round who's down 10 points. And I just start getting a little bit more like, nope, got to make this better. Like now it's on me if this match sucks. So your wife is like my ideal audience to try and say, like, listen, I understand this isn't entertaining, but now allow me to do what I do. So to me, that's the whole, like, I want to make her enjoy it. Now, granted, sometimes the matches don't help me.
My wife just texted me and said, you need to be funnier.
To you or me? Because if it's you, it's different.
I'm assuming me. No, she's pointing at me. She definitely.
Oh, okay. Me. I was like, listen, you don't have to be funny, but if I'm not funny, then this thing dies a very sad death. So as long as I'm all right, you don't have to worry about that. I'll tell you this though, my wife is she's become a little bit more of, oh, is this person competing tonight? But she won't watch it. And right. I still feel like, to me, the television producer inside is always, all right, we got to break that extra wall. Like we gotta reach that demo, because that's when I think we start to cross over. And bless all these people who put together these vignettes, because I always think, hey man, as many times as I've had boring Polarises that I've had to be like, hey man, I love you guys, I didn't love this one. I super respect their attempts to brand these athletes and give them the interviews that I think they deserve.
It's the hardest bit to do. Like this comes back to the whole tournament narrative versus super fight narrative. And unless they are one of a very small handful of people in the grappling world, it's super hard to get that many people to care about that many fights. When it's one-off matches, tournaments are a bit easier. But, you know, there aren't that many that I care about that are going on right now, you know. So, you know, if I'm sure there are, I don't know, I guess, yeah, we've already established I'm not really the demographic for diehard fan from absorbing it point of view.
There's going to be a point when you're just going to be like, as a black, I was about to be like, you're just getting to a point where you go, you know, I never even liked grappling. It's just, I didn't enjoy it. I don't know why I even have
be okay at calling it.
Oops, I guess I'm super good at it. Whatever.
No, I mean, I've been very honest for quite a while now when I've done podcasts and stuff. That's like, I don't watch that much from a hobby perspective, like from a fan perspective. Like I'm either out doing it or doing other things, you know. It's not where, you know, I don't sit down for like 3 hours in an evening and watch it. I just don't. You know.
Well, you know, the nice part about it is I find that for me, I just know that doing stuff like this does my homework for me when I interview somebody, because I'm always like, well, I have to watch these matches anyway, because if I talk to somebody, I don't just want to spend 20 minutes before they come on air and be like, how'd they do? Hold on.
Sure. But again, this is different because this is, you know, you do all this extra content creation around this. So you don't really have a choice in the matter. You know, it's like you know, Maine and the guys at Grappling Rewind, like they don't have a choice. They have to watch everything. You know.
You know what? That's not fair to them, because I always think to them whenever they put up something every single week, I'm like, you don't have to do this, Maine. Like, take a week off.
Yes, no. From that perspective, you're right. Like they don't have to do it, but they do it, and I could never do that. So you know.
Well, I mean, the hard part is that I've always been a sucker for saying these guys don't have anybody going up to interview them at a number of the events that I go to cover, and they're considered pro events. You know, it's great when you do these things and you interview them afterwards. I think that someone's doing their job. That's what we're supposed to do. But when I would go to these events and barely anybody would be going back to interview or talk to them, I just got sad. It's a terrible sight to see when these guys kill themselves to do something that I think is really impressive, and no one goes to talk to them.
But that is still, you know, that shows you how much of a grassroots sport grappling still is to a certain extent.
Absolutely.
You know, and I know how many people are trying to work out a format which makes people who don't grapple interested in grappling, but I just am not convinced it's ever going to actually happen.
I don't know. Again, television producer inside of me says it can, but I do feel this is pretty entertaining.
Jed Hughes a beast. He looks, I'm going to say, is there a nice way to say quarantine weight, maybe?
Rude. Whoa.
He looks beefier. No, well, he looks beefier than when I've seen him before.
Bro, you said it, not me. I don't need to say. Hey man, I was saying, ooh, nice fucking back take, dude.
Yeah, it's just slick. I mean, I've never heard of this other dude, so
Well, let me just point this out. I always like to tell people that you want to stay connected. That dude literally came off him and still was able to transition to that back like it was effortless. This is a beautiful series of transitions by him.
Jed is one of Ross Nichols' main training partners.
Oh, he's good. I would say, first of all, instead of insulting him like you did, which is rude, I would say he's got like shorts that look like sprinkled donuts.
He's got some Mike Perez level of shorts going on there.
So to me, ooh, that's a counter. Nice. Yeah. All right.
This up until very recently, because he just left to kind of tour the world, do his own thing. This other guy, Bukalet, I'm guessing, is from Dan Strauss's club.
Okay.
So I assume he knows him. I can't hear what he's saying, but I assume he knows him.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. I dig that. I appreciate it. Man, God, I'm so mad at you for knowing so much and watching so little. That's so impressive, and it goes to show what your good research does.
Well, I mean, it's more just that I'm English, and these are English guys. I wouldn't expect you to know them.
Hey, listen, for as much as I think you were being humble and modest about it, you know a lot about these guys, and it is more than just the entry level version of this.
Did you see? He literally just, how about that for taking the piss? He went for an inside leg entry, and Jed just laughed at him.
Yeah, bro. Again, as somebody who has the poker face, that would be my version of a poker face. Like, I looked at that, I was like, I know what that is. I've gotten out of a number of leg attacks because I just look at somebody and go, "You really think that's good?" And then they second guess it, and I'm like, "Ha, you're dumb." But a person who just does it full steam, I'm like, "Yeah, I got to tap to this. Sorry, bud."
But I reckon he's had Ross do it to him God knows how many times. So I imagine his defense is pretty damn good. Ooh, nice shoulder of justice. This is gonna be unpleasant.
So I think it's kind of interesting to see how the whole time Jed has been progressing off of this. I really like his mount over on this and this transition over to the arm. Oh, good control. He should be able to kind of rip them if you really.
You noticed how everybody, when they step over that armbar, takes a Kimura grip. Everybody.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you this right now. I'm guilty of it too, so I'm not gonna act like.
No, but I mean, it's like it's the only grip you're gonna have. It's much higher success rate with, isn't it? Ooh, this looks unpleasant. I know your stream's like 2-3 seconds ahead of mine.
Yeah,
we got him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've just got the final. Well, I tell you what. So seriously, pacing of this event's great. You know what? We've been at it for 2 hours and we've got one match left.
Yep. Like I said, dude, this is what we want, right?
Yeah, I'm not digging 3-hour events. I mean, here's how. If it feels long for me calling it, God damn, it's got to be long for you guys watching.
Well, hey, this is a much more manageable time. I think when we used to have, we would always send a note to the guys at Polaris and say, hey, we're going to watch this early in the morning. And they'd be like, oh, that's so great. And I go, cool. What time are you guys at? And they go, I think it's probably 7 a.m. your time. I go, you're asking a lot. Yeah. I'm not funny at 7 a.m., but I will do my best. And like I said, those things, when they would go to like 1 or 2 p.m., the one thing that would make me mad on a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon is if I have to make the choice between watching this all the way and going to train, it would get dicey because I'd be like, ooh, is Keenan got up yet? Because Raf needs to go train.
Right. Yeah, I would go train personally.
So what I used to do.
I can always come back and watch it later.
The hard part for me is I hate if I have the opportunity to watch it live, I really try to. But at the same point,
like it makes a difference for sure.
Yeah. But I also know that if I miss out on it, then I might only watch the 1 minute clip that lacks context. And I really do like the ability to kind of look at something and say, oh, yeah, that's pretty dope. I want to, talk to this guy or see this, or I really like the way he does that. That to me is kind of like an important detail.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you on that. Let's say there's, I'm not staying up to watch a UFC fight or something, and there's a knockout in the main event or something, and it happens in round 4 of a 5-round title fight. Probably not going to go and watch the whole fight. I'm probably going to watch the knockout or the round that the knockout happened in, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is great, and I would tell you those events when they started at 7 with the prelims, you're going, and then all of a sudden you do the main card, and when it gets to the main card, it'd be like 1 or 2 p.m. and I'd be like, "Are we done?"
Yeah. I mean, it's the same. Like, there's very few events I would go watch live personally as well, simply because they take too long.
Yeah.
I just short events I'd rather have, fast pacing. Cage Warriors are great at it. They don't have downtime, and that's something Graham was hot on. I mean, the last time I actually watched a full UFC, I was like, because full well they have set times for fights and they're going to fill. If there's a quick finish, they're going to fill. And I'm like, the last fight finished 30 minutes ago.
Yeah.
What, you'll get to a point, you're like, yes, just the main event left. It's like, well, it doesn't even start for 30 minutes by the time they've done promos, and then they've done walkouts, and then they've done intros. And I'm just like, it ruins any semblance of me wanting to watch it.
Can I tell you this, though? I love that you share that with Kevin, because Kevin continuously turns into an old man on our show where he'll be like, these things are 7 hours long. What the fuck? And I have to remind him, hey, look, dude, I don't know how to explain this to you other than this is someone's shot. And if they go to a town, these guys who are on the undercard are very appreciative. This is a 7-hour event. Sure. So I understand that, but yeah, does the producer in me go, okay.
Yeah, I'm not I don't care how many fights they put on the card. What I don't want is downtime with superfluous shit happening. And promos for a lot of stuff, particularly on big UFC events and stuff, are superfluous. I don't care about most of what I have to watch in between fights actually happening. With the exception of, I enjoy the little vignettes and the VTs for the, for the fight itself. The rest of the time, I just get on to the next fight. That's honestly the thing I found most irritating last time I watched the full UFC. Was there was a legitimate half-hour break between like the co-main and the main, and there was no reason for it. So that bugs me. But hey, that's my rant over with.
No problem. Well, there was a finish in that last fight, which means we do need a cheer. See, I don't abandon my responsibility
I didn't even
here.
think of that.
And I'm going to go ahead and take this one. And I want to go ahead and send this on over to our good friend, Jed. Jed, I don't know you, but I feel like in watching your jiu-jitsu, I do. It was fantastic. Your transitions were pretty immaculate, dude. And I'd like to say that between the two of us on this show, I seem to be more favorable to you than Josh is. So I just want to tell you, hey, man, big ups to you. You made it a very fun way to go ahead and enjoy us in our telecast here at Polaris 13. We send this cheers on out to you, sir.
Cheers. Good job, Jed. I like the way you snuck in there. Thank you for our telecast here at Polaris 13. It's not your job yet, Raf.
Hey, listen, dude. You know what? You know when they say dress for the job that you want? This is my way of being like, hey, listen, this is my show. So I can say this is my version of a show. And it's one of the brilliant ways of getting around being like, because we get people all the time who show up in our comment section who go, hey, are you going to give a link to the illegal stream of this? And I'm like, no, you dummy. Like, I root for my friends. I want them to do well.
So this is going to be. So we've got one match left, main event, and this is actually a tough one to call because I wonder if Ross can. I don't know if Fred passes Ross's guard. I seriously think we could see a 0-0 judge's decision here.
Okay, so decision and who wins?
Ross should win.
Okay.
But I'm not convinced either one of them is actually going to submit the other.
Yeah, I mean, so I need an answer here because I need to make sure I write.
There?
Listen, bro. Okay, there we go.
There you go.
See,
I can't bet against him. I just can't. Like
now it's there. Decision. See, look, it says it right there. Ross decision. So now
and I'm batting at 100% so far. So there's no reason it shouldn't continue.
God, it's so gross. So stupid. Oh, we have smoke. Where did the smoke come from?
Yeah, it's even better as the smoke is covering the commentators. They're up on the stage, right? Do you see what I mean? They're like 25 feet away, which would be a pain in the ass.
Yeah, it's tough. But at the same point, because it's flat on the ground, if they're any closer, they're in that danger zone of, one of these guys breaks bad. They're going into you guys.
I have no problem with that. It's never really happened to me, to be fair.
It's never happened to you?
Not really. Not where I would actually consider it like, okay, yeah, they're legitimately, not like, Sean and who's Sean and Howell, ADCC, yeah, like not like that. That's never happened to me. So
I'll tell you this much.
Near my table, the whole of ADCCs.
I've not commentated, but this was me doing photography for Ultimate Mat Warriors, and I'm around the edge, and it was, I don't know why Boogie thought that he should bring in the heavy boys on one of these tournaments. And I looked at them as I was taking photographs, and people would worry. They'd be like, "Are you going to be okay?" And I'm like, I would just stick out my hand like this, like, no. And they're like, "You think that's going to cover you?" And I go, "If they want good photos, they can't kill me." So,
right. Yeah,
they got to work with me here. Again, this will be an interesting thing. Already, Fred has been the one to initiate pulling guard, making Ross Nichols here.
Yeah, this is very, very. But we don't see Ross do a lot of guard passing because he pulls guard straight away. But it's not like he can't do it. It's
right. What's
going to be interesting to see is if Fred actually gets a leg entry on him, because they both love leg locks. So I feel like Ross's fundamentals are going to be cleaner, but I don't know. We'll see. I still think Ross is going to win. So
okay, I like that. You said it'd be by decision, but we'll see if that plays out. Even though you've been 100% according to your estimations.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Ross takes us back. I don't know, but I'm still going to go with a decision win for Ross.
That's fine. And listen, this is for the dollar on the corner of the gym. You know what I mean?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you give any predictions at any point whatsoever.
Because I'm a genius to make the person who is the guest take all the heat while I do the smart thing. Like, at what point do you not understand that I am the clever arch nemesis version of you that has made you do all the heavy lifting on the guessing?
That's a good way of saying you didn't know what would happen.
You said you know these people because you're British, so I brought you on.
Yeah, I mean, in all seriousness, there aren't that many other people you could have brought on who would have known this.
Hey, I gotta tell you, this is something that we talked about off air. Is I shot you a note and I said, "Listen, dude, I'd much rather you be commentating, but if you're not, and believe me, I wish you were." I was like, we never get the opportunity to do commentary or anything together. So I was like, when I have those rare opportunities where I say this seems like something fun to do with somebody who I do respect and I do like, I would like to have fun with them and do something like this. So I took it as this is a bad thing that I think you and I both wish had turned out differently for you. But I said,
Yeah.
let's at least make the best of it and do something fun and entertaining and different. And I think that, like I said, it's been very nice to have your insight here. Now, what may be making some of your insight incorrect is this back take that is in progress.
Right? I know. Oh.
I mean, he's not fully accomplishing it because you are seeing Ross do a real good job of avoiding letting him control the hip. So he's been continuously hovering above the hip, and now he's just back into an ability of kind of letting Fred just kind of use pressure more than actually securing a back control here.
Yeah, I mean, Fred's vice grip is going to be brutal from there.
Closer.
Ooh.
He might be able to, just worm on out.
But you see, here's the thing: can Ross actually change the tempo and score back on him? That's the This is where it gets dicey now. I know there's still 6 minutes left, but
Well, that 1 point is interesting.
What points for? Have we worked this out yet?
I think it was.
Know. I missed the graphic at the start, and because I wasn't involved in this event, I haven't discussed it in the kind of depth I would have with the guys who are there right now.
I'm so proud that I made you slum to my level. That at the very end of this, you're like, I didn't look up the points because I'm not on duty tonight. And now you're understanding what it's like to be me, where you go, what are the points on this one? Nah, I don't care. I'm just gonna make fun of what they're wearing.
I don't, I do a lot of research when I have to do it. When I don't, I really don't. Like, I have other things to do in my life.
Absolutely. I mean, let's put it this way. Someone pays you to do that research because you're doing the show. When they're not paying you to do that research, then
it's interesting, actually. I never really consider that I'm paid for the research part of it. I just consider that's part of what I have to do a professional job. The reality is that for some of these, particularly more, perhaps possibly more with MMA where I do color commentary, I could probably get away with doing borderline no research.
That's true.
But that's not me. So,
Well, again, a lot of this comes down to having your own kind of code of ethics that you have to do, because I think we recognize, oh no, I'm going to sound like a real big dummy, and that's bad for me. If I don't do it. Again, I've walked into things cold and just said, like, listen, I trust myself to do this more than most people. And I've heard a lot of people do commentary that I think are quite good black belts or quite excellent people that I've said, this commentary is not good,
Yeah, there is a difference, though, between the shows that those people tend to commentate and the shows that are full on. Yes. Okay, there's graphics. There's not. I'll give you an idea. A lot of shows that people watch are a couple of cameras set up mat side, right? Okay, well, there's 4 or 5 cameras here. There's an entire OB unit in a SAT truck outside with a director, a producer, an EVS guy. There's more that goes into these events than other events.
Absolutely.
It's literally that simple. There's more that goes into them, particularly when you're on Fight Pass, because on Fight Pass you have to produce all your own content and you just sell it to Fight Pass. Whereas, Flow, they do half of it. It's just a different model. Oh no, buffering.
I would also pay a compliment to, I think, one of the people who I saw that did it closest to television for a commentator that I have worked with thus far in. I love John. I think John and I have the most fun together. If I had every opportunity to work with him all the time, I would do that, because we just, for my brand and his brand, it works really well together. But if I had to compliment somebody who I think is at a level that I would say is akin to people who do television, Big J, Regal Budo, is somebody who, his approach, when I showed up, normally I'm the guy that has all the notes. He shows up with the binder and goes, "Hey man, I made you a packet." And I looked at him and I was like, "I have my packet, but your packet is not." And I just remembered looking at him and saying, like, Jay, I don't mean this to come off as like anything more than what I'm saying, but like as somebody who works in television, this is wonderful. Like what you do shows when you're commentating, but your professionalism outside of it is something that people don't see. And I was trying to tell him that. And, he sent me a nice note when we talked about him on the podcast. And I was like, I wouldn't say it unless it was true. And I think sometimes people don't see that stuff on camera, but it's important to me.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I have no idea what's happening right now because my screen's gone completely blank.
Well, let me go ahead and give you a slight play-by-play now. Ooh.
Here's a chance. I'm waiting for a play-by-play, Raph. I'm waiting for a Polaris play-by-play.
You know what? If you're going to be a dick about it, you're not going to get any play-by-play.
I mean, this is your shot, man. Come on.
This is my shot. Listen, do I need to use a British accent to do it too? Is that what I'm going to be about?
Do a British accent. Can you do a British accent, please?
Hold on. The only British accent I do is my faux one that makes fun of you.
No, you do. You probably do like most Americans, a high T British accent with retarded.
All right, let me go ahead and commentate this like a fictional British person would be commentating. Okay.
Okay.
All right, everyone, welcome and thank you for watching on the telly. We've got a real footsie race going on over this way. Actually, it's getting more Irish. I know. You know what it is I had the words that I wanted to make as quaint British, and I was like, oh no, this is taking a turn. Anyway, here's what I can tell you. With 43 seconds left, you've got Ross Nichols trying to get some kind of sweep over this way. Do you have anything happening, or am I just telling you things that you don't know are happening?
No, I have a completely blank screen. Thank you very much, Comcast.
Not a problem. 30 seconds left right now. You have Ross Nichols trying to pull full guard, working to get a little bit now open. He's going to see if he can sweep Fred, who's trying to take a look over at the clock. Nothing doing over on his side. Fred may try to coast this to a 1-0 victory. There's a little bit of space, a little traditional kind of look. What?
I said, God damn it, Fred, you're fucking up the curve.
Oh. Yeah, so I was like, wait, if you want me to give you more real stuff, I can do that. The only problem is listening to you admit defeat as a buzzer is heard, and that means Fred is going to win and prove Josh.
Good for Fred, man.
Wrong.
Yeah, no, good for Fred. That's a good win for him.
Here's what I've learned today. I've learned that I'm going to clip the part where you picked Ross.
Please don't.
Send that over to Fred and then say, this is a professional. And, and then I'm going to write down for our future role, always look for toe holds. So that is what I have about you. We'll do some ceremonial listen to the thing, and then we're going to start closing that off.
So 220, that went fairly quick.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, honestly, we got in and we got out pretty effortlessly in this. I'm going to try and keep an ear on what Fred is saying in the post presser. That's an obnoxiously large belt.
Oh, is it? I still don't have anything on my screen yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. And they give him a check of, normally they try and deck out the checks with a little bit of fanfare, but this looks like something that you wouldn't pick even from the free sample size of your local banking. And it sounds like I'm going to switch over ears real quick.
How much did he win?
I thought it was 10K.
Ooh, that's nice.
Is that in euros or is that in real dollars?
Why would it be in euros?
I don't know. You guys are British. You tell me.
Well, that would be the pound sterling.
Listen, all I saw was 10, and I can't tell if they put on our posters $10,000 or if it's in your.
It might actually be dollars, but that would be weird.
Maybe they're just trying to appeal to the dumb UFC audience that figures they're not going to do any conversions.
Yeah, right now 10K is a lot more in pounds than it should be.
So Fred is very tired. He said that he knew he wasn't supposed to win.
Right. See?
No, hold on. I'm going to reach out to Fred and be like, "Oh, I noticed in your post you said maybe you didn't think you were supposed to win this. You know who also agreed with you? One Josh Palmer. Roll clip."
No, I mean, look, I don't feel too bad about it because if you've got to take, ADCC vet Ross Nichols over Fred, I like Fred. I enjoy watching Fred compete most of the time, but you have to go on. If you go on pedigree, come on, like it's not a total slap in the face. Oh, UFC Fight Pass. Sorry, something went wrong.
Oh no.
Reason number 2, I don't pay for pay-per-views.
He's also saying that even with the lockdown, he feels like he leveled up, even with all that happening.
I guess he probably didn't stop training.
Oh, he wants to say one last thing. He wants to thank his instructor at UK BJJ. And he said he's thanking him for making it possible to train legally in the UK. $10,000. And you are the winner according to one hard. All right. Well, let's do this, my friend. We have narrated our way through a whole bunch of Polaris. The pacing, as you have mentioned, and I will second on this, was quite nice. And I gotta say, man, I think a tournament fits them well, dude. I know it may be a little bit weird, but especially for the COVID times, I think a tournament is just fine. I was a little worried. I didn't know how many matches would be tonight, but if you've only got a limited amount of people you can bring on a roster, yeah, I'll watch a tournament. I'm good on that.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed the tour. I mean, yeah, that's the first tournament they've ever done. I enjoyed it. Yeah, I know they're going to do more, so, we'll see.
Excellent. Well, here's what I would tell you, dude. I am very happy you were able to come on today. For one thing, I don't get to see you much, and these things are always nice to check in. We always send notes to each other when you put up something silly or you put up your barbecue, which I have very, very big issues with your barbecue.
Why?
It looks too good. Like, stop posting that shit.
Dude, you see the steaks I did the other day? God.
Yeah, dude. Listen. I have to sometimes mute you when I'm trying to keep a low profile on trying to lose some weight here. When I see you put up those steaks, and I'm like, nope, mute, Josh. Too good food.
I like to cook, man, but that was a problem during lockdown, so I had to try it. Oh, sorry, my dogs are being.
Oh, you're good. I get it. They know we're rounding third. They know it's coming to a close. But I would tell you this: I do like the way your steaks look. The way that you barbecue is the way it's supposed to look, and I think that's why I get so angry as I look at it. I was like, dude, those things look really good.
I will say, I wish I could get barbecue here like exists. I've not had barbecue in LA. I don't know what LA barbecue is like. Texas barbecue, man. I'm spoiled. So like when we were out there for Kasai, I ate 2 meals in Dallas. Literally, that's all I ate was 2 meals. I was there for 2 days. I ate 1 meal a day. They were both at Pecan Lodge. They were both barbecue. And one was with Hollis and the other guys, and one was just me, Sean Williams, and Jay. And we just went and got 6 pounds of barbecue. But yeah, you can't get that like here in the Northeast. So as much as I am trying to become fully American and embrace the American culture, it's it ain't all as good as it could be.
I mean, hey, I would tell you, I believe it's Kansas City has some good barbecue as well. So I think you've got some more stops to make, but Texas isn't bad. I just have an issue with Texas in terms of they like to try and hone in on the Mexican food, and I'm always like, it's not the same. Like, we've got real brown people over this way, so it's very different. Let me bring this up to you, sir. I'm, again, super happy we were able to make this happen. Can I give you an opportunity to do some shout outs or say anything that you would like to say? I'm going to give you the floor right now, sir.
No, just thanks for having me on. It's been a blast. I had it's just a much more enjoyable way to watch an event than me sitting at home by myself watching it for sure. So it's good to catch up. But other than that, there's not much else going on. If you want to follow me on social media, go ahead at Josh Palmer MMA. Otherwise, keep watching Raf.
Thanks. I love when the guest plugs me back because I'm always like, sure.
Why not?
You know what I mean? Like, what am I going to say? Like, don't watch me? No. I think that's super nice of you. Here's what I'm going to say, dude. Stick around. I'm going to talk to you off air in a second. I'm just going to close up. My huge thanks to one, Josh Palmer. As I go ahead and kick him off for just a split second, I want to say thank you to you guys who were watching this. Now, here's what's happening. I'm going to take a short little break. Not too long, but I'll be back for the UFC prelims, probably about an hour and change to be watching UFC Fight Island because I do that. Some commentators don't. They just don't do the extra homework. I'm not going to name names, but oops, there he is. Anyway, hey, listen, that's not important. I'm going to remind you guys, if you get the opportunity, go check out No Gi BJJ gear. Put anything in your cart, take 15% off. Use the promotional code Grappling Hour 15 to take some percentage off and buy you something nice. Anyway, like I said, I'll be back in an hour. We're going to have some fun watching. And then tomorrow, if you can't make it with us tonight, tomorrow, no, we're going to be watching Submission Underground. So it's a packed weekend of fight companions. Cannot thank you guys enough for watching us right now. We hope you enjoy the rest of your day. It's been a great day for grappling. We'll see you back on the mats eventually.